During square away time, 3 of the guys had like this computer game, World of Warcraft. Sergeant Tabarachi looks at this. He's like, what are you guys doing today? Oh, we're playing World of Warcraft. We didn't see him for 2 days. When he came back, I heard him screaming at these guys and he called them his fairy tale bitches. He went home, bought World of Warcraft to study the game, to come up with a slay session specific for his World of Warcraft fairy tale bitches. We used a couple of trucks to ship dead bodies and leatherneck. There may have been a very dried out foot in the back of the vehicle that was lodged into something. We might have taken it out and played a little football with it. Maybe we threw it at an army guy. Just another day, people losing limbs, taken out. We didn't realize how bloody the deployment was until afterwards. We were going through this alley, and while we were pushing, Castillo turns around and he was like, hey, be careful, there's possibly a pressure point here. Abdul turns around to tell the A&A, and he steps right on the fucking pressure plate right next to me. It blows the fuck up. And then I thought I was at In-N-Out Burger. I was not there mentally. Abdul comes from the sky and just sends me back into reality, and I look and I see Abdul in this alleyway just laid down, and I realize he's dead. My name is Ronald Long, United States Marine Corps. I served from 09 to 13, and I got out as an E-4 Corporal. All right, I was born February 18th, 1990 in Castro Valley, California. Upbringing was a little different. We were one of the few Puerto Rican families in the Bay Area at the time, so it wasn't like we had we couldn't really relate to a lot of the families that were out there. And so we kind of kept to ourselves, but I came from, like, my great-grandfather, great-grandparents generally, they had like a whole bunch of kids, and then all of them had a bunch of kids. So we just had a really large family. We traveled to each other's houses throughout the Bay Area. So my family's just surrounded the whole place. For me, with my family, we kind of fell on hard times after my sister was born, because she was born with Langerhans cell histiocytosis, which is it's a type of blood cancer, like 7 tumors before she was even 3 years old. And because of that time, we struggled for money really hard because we were going through all the treatments, as you can imagine. And through that, we started living like couch to couch surfing a lot throughout the Bay Area. At the time, my sister's about 3 years younger than me. I didn't really understand what was going on at that time, but I was just seeing family members. We're always doing the family parties anyway. We're always crashing on everyone's couches. So it's like, that was a whole thing. But later on, finding out how that turned out, my dad started to explain it to me as an adult. I realized how difficult life actually was. I think they started to say, like, my sister was going to pass away at a certain point in time, and that's when my dad, he had a pretty interesting past as well, he started praying for the first time. And then when he started praying for the first time, he actually made a deal with God. He's like, if you let me have my daughter, then I will do everything I can to teach my kids who you are, if you're even real. And after that, my sister, like, her tumors just kind of like melted away. It was weird. They pretty much gave up on her. They were like, you can kind of take her home after like a year, and then they're like, just keep her on pain meds so she's comfortable. And like all those things started falling off, like tumors on the kidneys and spine, leg, all that stuff just gone. And after that, he tried to keep to it the best that he could. He was still a very he just kind of converted to everything that he can. And then later on, we started getting up a little bit better. We ended up leaving the Bay Area to move up to the Sacramento area, and kind of started life over there. Life there was a little bit difficult too, though. My mom was kind of struggling with her own demons when it came to addiction, and my dad was kind of avoiding that kind of problem. So he would be working in San Francisco, couple hours away, and me and my siblings were kind of at the mercy of whatever would happen at home. And that wasn't the best. That was something I didn't understand that was different from other people. I spent more time trying to figure out how to walk on eggshells at home than I could other places. My mom struggled with alcoholism and drug addiction, and she didn't seem to translate that well as a mother. And she's a lot better now, but back in the day, we didn't really understand anything except for everything that we would do um, would be punished. And my sisters, with all the stuff that's going on with me now, one of them kind of was telling me some of the stories that things would happen back in the day. Things I can't even remember. Apparently, I blocked them out. But one specific story that she told me, she said that when we were really young, and I think my younger sister, the one that had the cancer, she was kind of coming off of all the stuff. She's a lot better. My youngest sister at the time, she just learned how to write her name on just in school. She was like 4 years old. So, her name is Angel, and she was really proud of the fact that she could write her name Angel, right? So she wrote it everywhere. We had this pretty large fireplace in this house in Lathrop, California. And my sister Angel, I guess, took like the charcoal from the inside of the fireplace and just started writing Angel, Angel, Angel all over the firewood that's right by it, right? She's proud of it. And I guess one morning we were waking up by my mom after Dad left for work and everything. And she said she wanted to know who wrote all over the firewood with this charcoal. And my sister said, without a beat, I told her it was me. And then my mom beat me in front of my sisters until it's just, I don't know. She said she had to watch me go down, and she just couldn't. And I did this all the time in different kind of occasions. And she just wanted to let me know that she always appreciated the fact that I would always stand in between them. And I don't remember that. I don't remember even an ounce of it. And so thinking about that and thinking about what my sisters had to witness and all the things that I would be willing to go into, and the fact that my dad had no idea. He was 2 hours away, and he told me later on that sometimes he knew that the home wasn't a pleasant place, but it was hard for him to kind of deal with that at the same time. He started studying the Bible. He started taking us to church. He did as much as he could. And I think that might have been the pressure between him and my mom as well, because it was something that he made a decision for, and it wasn't like he was like discussing it with her. And despite what, I don't really know where her belief system is, it was just a shift from what it was going to be from before, which I don't know what it was before I was there. I just know when I was born, my dad decided whatever life that he was living before, he was going to give up, and he was going to try to have a good life, like a straight, narrow life. He became a carpenter, which my grandfather, I guess, was in the carpentry business, so it was easy for him to fall into. But whatever other stuff he was involved in, he completely dropped that to be a full-fledged father. And then when my sister's thing started happening, that's when he started to, I guess, get online with the morality portion. And I don't know where the discontent with my mom and him was, but from what I understand, Mom wanted a certain life and my dad wanted to avoid any conflict, and they just didn't communicate. And just a lot of things happened from there. Did my mom struggle with alcoholism up in my teen years? When I became 13 and they decided that they were finally kaput and divorcing, she was the one that told me. After that, she walked out. I don't know what happened after that. I know she's probably still struggled and did everything, but she was no longer involved with my life and my sister's lives anymore. As much as she wanted to be, I had no desire to talk to her at that time, and neither did my sister. Sometimes I did because, mom is mom, but my dad fell into a very heavy depression, losing the woman that he loved, and it kind of fell on me to be like a surrogate father and mother to my sisters in a weird way, so I ended up just trying to figure out how to raise them, help my dad raise them the best that I could. But I was a child myself, so I didn't really know what was going on, but I didn't want to talk to her anymore. I just remembered life was a lot quieter, in some ways when she was gone, and she was living her life somewhere else. And I didn't really speak to her until after my deployment. With that whole thing, with her leaving, she actually, since we built our house in Galt, I did mention that the biggest obstacles that we became across when I was growing up was after she left, the courts still filed that she didn't have to pay child support, but she was going to get alimony and half the value of the house value after we built it. Since we built the house, so she was getting up to like $500,000 and alimony every month, and so we almost became completely broke as my dad, me, and my sisters, like to the point where we were probably going to be homeless again. So, but that wasn't her problem. That was our problem. She was getting her money, and she was using that to fund the person that was providing her drugs to go to college. So I do know that much. I found that out later on. But for us, I didn't really know what I was going to do. So I had a certain group of friends at the time, and all I knew is, with my sister's stuff and the bills coming up, and the housing market just crashed around that time. My dad's a carpenter, so he was struggling to find extra work in the housing business since he builds homes and there's no homes being built. So he was doing a lot of side jobs like remodeling bathrooms and things like that. I ended up making some pretty poor choices into I was selling a lot of weed at school. My mom had planted a bunch of plants and they grew and I didn't really know what to do. And so I would distribute it out to a few of my friends. They would sell it out in the small towns around, and then I would collect the money at the end of the day. And most of that was going into slipping it into my dad's wallet or finding a way to put it inside the bank account. So we had not a lot, just enough to make it look like we always just had enough. And I remember I paid portion of my sister's trip. She was in choir at the time, and she got an opportunity to sing at Carnegie Hall in New York, but she needed to pay it. And so I just used every dime I had to give her at least a little bit of a push, and she was able to go to New York and sing. And during that time, though, we ended up having a lot more conflict with the different type of gangs that were in Northern California. So you have your Norteños, you have your Sureños, you had all the little people who would fight around that. And since we were making money, certain people didn't really appreciate who we were. And I remember a couple of my friends, they just loved the violent portion of it, right? So that was just how it was. But there was this one house party in 2006. They were having a house party across the street, and my friends were at the house across that way. And I was in the Bay Area at the time, but since there was conflict already happening between certain groups, they ended up jumping all my friends at their house, and my friend Clint ended up getting stabbed in his own front yard, and he bled out right there while the other guys got their faces smashed in with crowbars and hammer. Yeah, you can look it up. Everyone else lived, but Clint died in his own house while they were trying to bust into the doors. And then after that, it was just really violent in town for a few years. It was mostly because people liked us more. That was it. There was no conflict there. We were able to pass out anything to anybody at the time, and it's not like we were being flashy. It was just we were paying bills at home. Well, I was paying bills at home. I don't know what everyone else was doing with their with their stuff. I knew one of us, he was really trying to become a rapper really hard. So I was going on Fruity Loops program, making beats while he was doing the rapping. So we used to buy mic equipment like this and shit just to have fun. But that was probably the most I did that was teenage like. Everything else was everything else. And it was horrible for me too, because I was still going to church on Sundays. I was still trying to be the best son and a brother that I could be. And it was a full face front. I knew I hated myself because of everything I was doing. And at the same time, I was still giving 10% to my church. What the it was going to make up for my bullshit. But gosh, I was such a hypocrite. Still a hypocrite, I think. But yeah, for a while, that's what it was. But It was very violent for about a year or two, and then we were still kind of into it. But once I realized, like, once my dad started getting more work and all that, I just kind of faded out of it. My friends graduated; they're a little older than me, so once they graduated, and I didn't have to like, I didn't even go like a lot of my sophomore and junior year of high school. Like, school was easy; I could just go there, do the test real quick, get their shit done. As long as I was getting like C's and D's, whatever I was passing. My senior year was the only time I ever took it seriously, and then I got A's and B's. I'm like, this is like the dumbest thing in the world. What's the point of public school? And then after that, I was like, I just, everything was pretty decent. They moved on, and I was trying to figure out what to do with my life at the time. And I was doing martial arts, so that was actually pretty good because I did get expelled when I was 13. Moving up to Sacramento County was a different experience from moving from the Bay Area, because I was from the Bay Area, and then I moved up to this little country town up in Galt, California, right outside of Sacramento. And I was used to carrying a knife on me at all times because, that's just how it was, because if you're walking home, it was always a problem. Then I looked a little different. I was a little bit darker. I used to have longer hair. I didn't speak Spanish. And I was just a little bit different. So I felt safer carrying it. And someone saw me with a knife in my pocket. And it was like, I was like 13 years old at the time. And yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, I was 13 years old at the time. And someone said that I brought a weapon to attack somebody. And I remember the police came and pulled me out of the classroom in front of the whole school. And I just moved to this town. It was like 2 or 3 weeks into moving to this town. I was getting pulled out by the police, getting arrested. They didn't take me to jail. They just put me in like the handcuffs in the seat up to the front, expelled. Only middle school in that town at that time. And so I was just home. And then I had to go do like, what was it, like 3 years of community service or something like that. And I'll do the whole shit. And I abused that too. I'm not gonna lie. So the community service was run through the church. And what we would do, we'd go hit grocery stores and get the food that they were going to throw out that was still good. And then we brought it to the food bank. And from the food bank, since we were one of the brokest families in the town, I had first choice of all the stuff over there. So I'm getting all the pies, chicken, salads, all that stuff, first pick. And I just stayed doing community service. I'm like, this is the best way to get my groceries. So I'm like, oh gosh, I was a terrible individual, but it was good. But, after that, I did some adult school during the summer, and I didn't go to 7th grade at all because of expulsion. Did everything in summer school, and then I went to 8th grade in the new middle school that they just opened, and there was all these rumors about me. So getting into the life after that was pretty simple because everyone thought I was a piece of shit anyway. So it wasn't that hard of a transfer. So at the time, what got the military on my mind? I was not considering going into the military. I'm from California and like the Bay Area and all that. Like people were not in the military in my family. Like I had an uncle that served, and he lived in Oregon, and so I only saw him for Thanksgiving once a year. But like most of my family was very I wouldn't say anti-military. I wouldn't say anti-military, but they were definitely like, it wasn't an option. Like my aunt was in the Air Force, but like, do you consider the Air Force hardcore military? No. Like she was like an air traffic controller, and she did really well. And she was like the nurse practitioner at a hospital. So you can see where the positivity would go in, but no one was pushing it. So I was a valet driver at the time, and I don't know. I was kind of just floating because I didn't really expect to live to the age of 18 with everything that was going on already, right? So the fact that I was there and just living and just doing bare minimum of existence, I didn't know what to do. And so my best friend at the time, her name was Kelly. I would hang out with her all the time because sometimes at home, I felt the whole mask that I was wearing for many years, trying to act like a good son, good brother, and then at the same time, I was making all these shady deals on the other side, and that was all gone. I still hated myself. I couldn't really face my own family. So I used to hang out with my best friend at the time, who she didn't really know what was going on either. But we used to just hang out. She was going to culinary school, and the deal was this: if I did her dishes, she would cook food. And I was like, done, right? That's easy. So we would hit the grocery store every day, pick up whatever she was going. She was trying to practice cooking, and then the whole thing would go. But one of these days, I was 18 at the time, and she had a call while we were at the store, and the call was her cousin. Her cousin was, I guess her cousin was now getting divorced. Her husband was throwing her out, and he didn't want to be with her anymore. She was just crying on the phone, right? And um, I don't know what came over me. I didn't know who this woman was on the phone at all, but I was like, you know what? We have stuff to do, and my friend who talks a lot, I talk a lot, but my friend who talks a lot, she's just not getting a word in. So I just asked for the phone. My entire goal was to get whoever's on the phone from crying to laughing. If I could do that, then I feel like we can continue on with the day and it'll make whoever on the phone do a little bit better. So I did. I took the phone. I don't know what I said. I can't remember to this day, but she went from like, hyperventilating, breathing, and crying to now laughing and feeling pretty good about this thing, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. I was like, are we good? She's like, yeah. So, all right, here you go. Here's Kelly again. So I give her back the phone. We move on with the day. A couple days later, Kelly calls. She's like, hey, my cousin wants to know if she can talk to you, like give you a call. Well, yeah, go ahead. She can call me anytime. From there, we started a relationship, right? A couple dates here and there. I found out the kid that me and Kelly used to babysit was the son of the woman I was talking to on the phone. I just never met her before. So we started talking, we went on a couple dates, and her ex found out she was starting to move on with somebody, even though it was like 1 or 2 dates and we didn't do anything. We went to a place called Moo Moo's in Sacramento or Stockton. It doesn't even exist anymore. It's like a burger place. And he freaked out about this whole thing, and he started like getting really abusive again. It turned out their relationship was highly physically and sexually abusive. And so when he found out she was starting to move on, he was not very happy about that. And I remember she called me because he was trying to bust in the door and he was trying to get to her. And she was like, I need help. And I'm like 2 towns over. Galt and Stockton is like 30 minutes away. So I got in the car, started driving over there, called the police so they show up first because obviously I'm not going to get there in time. They go up, I pulled up, and I came up and he was coming out in handcuffs. And she was there. Her son was like, he was already crying because he already witnessed what was going on in the house. And then I just took her home with me. I took her and her son to my house in Galt with my dad, with my sisters, everyone in the house. And I was just like, this is just it, right? And then she was there. And I think about a month later, we found out she was pregnant and I didn't really know what to do. I didn't really know what to do with my life. And I remember I did what my dad did. I was like, God, I don't know what you want me to do right now. Cause like the only thing I know how to do is sell shit and be a fucking degenerate. And that's the only thing I know that can make money fast in this town. So I need something. I tried to go into construction like my dad, but for some reason that didn't go through. It had to do something with the union. I don't remember what the whole issue was, but it was not working out. And I think as soon as I was walking home from Jack in the Box, and as soon as I got to the door, I got a call on my phone, and it was a Marine Corps recruiter, and it said I requested information. I was like, I fucking did not request information. But where are you located? He's like, Elk Grove. I was like, can I go there in like an hour? He's like, yeah, show up. So I just showed up. And that was the first moment in my head I was joining the military because I never considered it before that moment, but I needed something to change. So I drove my happy ass over to Elk Grove, met up with the recruiter, told him, I don't give a fuck about your spiel. This is my situation. Can the Marine Corps do something with it? Cornrows, goatee, excessively baggy clothes that I would never wear at this day. And he was like, all right, let's see it. Let's figure it out. Put me on ASVAB. I'm not gonna lie, I fucking half-assed that ASVAB. I looked at it as I knew the answer. I put the answer down. Everything else was just like A, B, ABC, whatever came up. Got a 69 on it. And he was like, that's a fucking fantastic score. He's like, so this is what I can do. He gives me a contract. He's like, this is the highest signing bonus you can have at this point in time. It's for a command and control electrician. No clue what that was. Didn't discuss it with anyone. Had that there. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. I signed the paper and shit, started going from there. So it was literally because I knew I was about to have a child and had no prospects in life that I was going to join the Marine Corps. And that was, very impulsive thought and really glad I did. I had like a 9-month kind of warm up period. So my experience in boot camp happened, but before I even got to boot camp, I was with my girlfriend at the time going through all the hospital stuff. And about, I think 8 months in, she ended up having some pain. So we took her to the hospital. And then when I took her to the hospital, she was going through preeclampsia and all the shit that was going on. And I was still a valet driver. And I didn't show up to my shift because she was hurting. And then while we're at the hospital, I ended up getting a call from my recruiter saying, hey, we need to send you out tomorrow to boot camp, like a whole month earlier before that. And, I didn't show up to my shift. The valet company called, and they fired me for not showing up to my shift. I told them my girlfriend's in the hospital, and they said that's not really our problem. So it was like, so they fired me anyway. I was like, I have no choice. I have to leave tomorrow because I already signed the paper. I know honestly that I didn't have to, but I did. And because I knew I needed something to provide and do what I could for her and my baby. And so I did. And so I left for boot camp, and boot camp was an interesting term. First off, they fucked up and didn't give me glasses. I'm blind as fuck without my contact lenses in, right? So they took the contacts, and then they just didn't give me glasses for like 3 days because they forgot that part. So I'm doing boot camp blind as fuck for 3 days, but you can't say anything. You're fucking, this recruit's over here. They'll look over here. What am I looking? So we're running around doing everything. I'm looking for green shirts and shit that I can follow. The good thing about boot camp, it's so structured. As long as you can follow a figure in front of you, you can get it done. We weren't shooting yet, so it wasn't a problem. But I was blind, right? Once they figured out I couldn't see anything, they got me the glasses, and I think it was around day 3 or day 4, I'm in planks, and our drill instructor hits me up, and he was like, hey, where's Long at? I was like, this recruit's right here. Fuck up. He comes over, and I see the senior drill instructor. He passes me the phone. And I get on the phone. It's my recruiter. My daughter was just born. She was healthy. There was some complications with my girlfriend at the time. They had to do an emergency C-section, which she had a C-section in her first one, so that was bound to happen. But she was recovering. Baby's healthy. He said, focus on boot camp and do your thing. And then after that, boot camp was just a thing. Like I was really just relieved everyone was good at home, and I just had to focus on doing the most with the Marine Corps or in the boot camp as I could, learn all the steps, do everything I could to follow in line. But it wasn't too bad. It was one of the funniest times. After you get out of boot camp, you realize how funny it was because we did some weird shit. It was me and this one guy, Torres. We were like what were we, the criminal recruits or some shit like that? It's like, who's ever got like arrested or something? It was us. And the reason he wanted to know that was because he thought he locked the keys for a fucking barracks inside the room, and he didn't want to say anything. He wanted us to break into our barracks. So we climbed up the side of like the water tower or where the rain chute thing, get into the window, got in, busted into the barracks, opened the door. He came in. He was like, once we got in there, he was like, this is not our barracks room. We went to the wrong barracks. And so we just broke in for no fucking reason. He was like, no one say shit. This is the first time anyone's heard that. Yeah, we ended up leaving. But it was just funny because we were doing shit that you wouldn't expect to do, but we were still learning how to be Marines, how to follow orders, do the thing, follow around. But every once in a while, weird shit would happen that we never expected. Phase 2. Phase 2 is when you guys start going to range, they start to calm down because obviously they don't want anyone shooting. But there was one night where it was just the knowledge hat. the knowledge hat was the one who was with us. He was going to teach some stuff that night. And the other fucking platoon, they also had only their knowledge hat. And apparently they served together or some shit, because that guy thought it would be a good idea to take 2 rucksacks filled with dirt from the range and then dump it into our fucking berthing after we get just done cleaning the whole fucking thing. Like, we were about to get into hygiene inspection. So Sergeant Tabarachi's looking, he's like, oh, okay, cool. It was like, boots and utes, everybody. We're going to go ahead and do some secret squirrel shit right now. So we get into boots and utes. They left. He was like, someone clean this the fuck up. We cleaned that up as quickly as possible. He's like, I need the Foot Locker that has all the fucking shaving cream in it. So we get the Foot Locker, all shaving cream. Everyone had 2 pockets full of the Barbasol shaving cream, right? And he was like, all right, we're going to get it. He was like, where's Williams at? Williams is... he was like this black kid from Virginia, and he's like really fucking fast. He's like, I need you to go to the back door and just start smacking on their fucking door until they go over there during hygiene inspection. And yeah, so he goes back, and we're waiting for him to go, because we all go over there. We can see that they're in their hygiene inspection in their fucking tighty whities with the fucking shirt and their pants, and they're doing the whole nail shit. And we see them, and then when you start hearing the slamming in the back door, they knew we were going to come at them, but they didn't know how it was going to happen. So they started going. Once they opened that door, we went in there, sprayed shaving cream everywhere, because they got their fucking little flip-flops on. They're slipping everywhere, and we just beat the shit out of them. We beat the shit out of the whole fucking room. We took their guide on and threw it out the fucking window and goes into the bush. And then after that, we just left. The next day, we had a surprise uniform inspection, like for our fucking alphas or some shit, like, or the short sleeve one. Yeah, the Charlies. Yeah, so we had our Charlies and shit, so we had to do that. They're all black and blue and had a little yellow on them and shit, but no one said shit. Like, they looked there like, what the fuck happened to you guys? I don't know what they said, because, we're not talking about it, but they never snitched at all. So they're all fucked up. We're all a little bit fucked up, because a lot of us got fucked up in that night too. But they had their guide on, we had ours, and no one said anything. We just kind of moved on. And that was kind of like my first understanding of that. Sometimes a super secret squirrel shit, you might beat the shit out of another Marine and shit, but you guys are still on the same team. And that kind of like translated over later on in the Marine Corps, but like, it's kind of funny. It was funny because like, it's very hood in the Marine Corps, but you still have each other's back, and that's unique. And other things happened in the Marine Corps and in boot camp that was funny. I remember during square away time, 3 of the guys had like this, what was the name of that game? It's like a computer game, but they couldn't play, like maybe World of Warcraft. Yeah, World of Warcraft, that's what it was. Again, Sergeant Tabarachi looks at this, he sees them playing this game, but they're like writing it out like fantasy Dungeons and Dragons style, but he didn't understand what they were doing. He's like, what are you guys doing? They're like, oh, we're playing World of Warcraft. What is that? He was like, oh, it's like a fantasy game. And then he left. He like stared at them for like a full-on beat and then fucking left. And then we didn't see him for 2 days. He just left, like disappeared. We didn't even think about it. We were doing drill the next couple days, right? And whatever, right? When he came back, it was like 4 a.m. and I heard him screaming at these guys, and he called them his fairy tale bitches, right? He went home, bought World of Warcraft to study the game, to come up with a slay session specific for his World of Warcraft fairy tale bitches. That's what he called them, right? He was like, all right, you're a paladin, all right? So you're going to be in charge of fucking shit up, right? You're a mage, so I need you to make sure the magic goes on to these guys, and they're going to do this shit over here, and then you over here, you're a ranger, you're doing that long range shit. And he's just having them do like burpees and push-ups, and they're just getting fucked up on the quarterdeck at 4 a.m. He was like, let me hear the sprinkle, because you're a fucking mage. He's just making them do this shit, and we're just trying not to laugh in our fucking barracks, in our fucking racks, because we're like sitting like this, just like, holy shit. For a full-on fucking hour, they were just one of the guys threw up while doing push-ups and shit. Oh, I was just thinking of that. That was fucking awesome. there was one time when our fucking kill hat was up there, and you know they take off the cover and they're looking at you, and now they're teaching you shit, right? And one of the guys who was sitting down there, I think it was one of the fairy tale bitches. I don't know why I'm identifying them as that, but that's what we're gonna call them. He looks up at Sergeant Garcia and he was like, "Hey, so, you know, we learned how to shoot, but what about melee?" He was like, "What the fuck do you mean melee?" He was like, "Melee, you know, like hand-to-hand combat." He was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Why don't you just say hit a motherfucker?" It was so fucking funny because like they had like this weird translation. And that's when I started to realize, like, I have this video that talks about the 3 types of Marines. These are the nerdy Marines I'm talking about. They're so hooked on like video games being reality, and they're trying to change their life to be something cool. And like, it is cool, but like, the way they talked was so on brand with like nerdy culture. So it didn't really translate. I was surprised they said that too, because I didn't know what World of Warcraft was either. So Sergeant Tabarachi, like after that slave session, he didn't say anything about the fairy tale bitches for a while till we did the Reaper hike. And I remember you already know the Reaper hike. It's already 4 o'clock in the morning again. We're all lined up with our gear. We're standing there and I see Tabarachi walk up. He's like looking off into like the distance. It's just quiet. And then he turns around, he's like, "Where's my fairy tale bitches at?" It's like they all run up. They knew exactly who they were. And he was like, "We're going to go on a quest. All right, you remember that fucking commercial back in the day where we slay the dragon? This is the moment we're slaying the fucking dragon." What the fuck? And I'm trying, you have to keep your bearing in boot camp. You cannot laugh, which is the hardest part when you're saying funny shit like this. And they did funny shit all the time because it was so stressful because they want you to be the Marine, but then they do shit to make you break your bearing. Like one dude came up, he was doing the fire watch in the middle of the night, and Tabarachi and the other guy who fucked us up before this came in a little bit tipsy. And they wanted the dude to announce them like "attention on deck," but as if they was Helen Keller. They wanted like, I'm Helen Keller. How would you announce Helen Keller? And then he's like, "All right, Helen, attention on deck, Helen Keller on deck." And then he's like, he's like, "Say aye, aye, sir." For what? So fucking stupid. And, gosh, that was great. And I remember, besides all the funny shit that happened, I ended up becoming a squad leader in boot camp against my will, which is the way of it, right? I didn't want to be second squad leader, but I ended up becoming that because I was never afraid to talk about what was going on at home and the fact that I didn't even know I was going to be a Marine. I'm very forward with what I am. Even forward to the fact that like, I discussed how I fucked up. I never would not tell you how I fucked up. So if I fucked up in boot camp, I wasn't going to hide around. I was like, this recruit did it. This recruit totally fucked that up right now, right? And because of that, my drill instructors put me in charge for a while because they knew at least I would own my shit at all times, which was something I think I needed to learn as a kid because so many times when I was growing up, people were so big on like covering up what they're doing. I was tired of covering up all the shit I was doing. I was so fucking tired of being this two-faced individual. I just like, no matter how I fuck up, I'll tell you how I fucked up. I'll be 100% honest with it at all times. And that ended up making me become a squad leader. And I was squad leader for a while until one night when I was on fire watch and the other fucking lieutenant comes in and I don't know where the fuck his origination comes from his ethnicity, but he had like 1,000 different letters on his fucking green camis, and the only thing I saw on there was ski at the end. So I was like, he's from the Eastern Europe in some way, and I had to announce him, and I couldn't read his name. No lights were on. He's wearing green camis. I'm like, I'm fucked. And so they had me on the pull-up bar doing pull-ups to the alphabet for like an hour and a half. And then I lost my job as a fucking squad leader. But I think I learned a valuable lesson in boot camp was just like, own your shit. Don't be afraid to do what you're doing and just keep going like the entire fucking time. It doesn't matter. And then once they announced, I had to sign that contract that said command and control electrician, I found out I was going to be a field radio operator. And I was going to MCT and then comm school. And that was my boot camp experience for the most part. There's just other stuff in there, but like those are the major funny stories and things that happen. I did MCT after, and you learn how to do your weapon systems and all the different things, and you get a little bit more freedom than you did in boot camp, obviously, right? You get to say I and shit. Besides I, you actually have I. But for some reason, it was around the winter time. It was like Christmas break, and everyone got to go. They had like a little bit of leave, but something happened with my paperwork. I wasn't allowed to go home, so I had to go straight to 29 Palms from MCT. And I didn't know where to go, and everyone was gone for the holidays. So when I showed up in the middle, like it's the middle of the morning, I land, I take this bus, go to this abandoned ass fucking base in the middle of nowhere, just 29 Palms, California. Just walking around with my sea bags and the uniform, and they didn't even have like a duty on deck to like guide me around. So I'm just lost. And once I got there, I didn't get to class for a full week, so I got into my barracks. Then everyone started showing up, and then we got into the school system. The school was my first experience that was more like you're an adult in school, and we started to learn a lot. I realized radios they're for the most part, they're straightforward. You get to learn all the stuff. You get to do comms. We were doing a lot of hiking. I like 29 Palms. A lot of people didn't like 29 Palms, but when you're in comm school, you have the best chow hall there because like a submarine, if you're stuck in the middle of nothing, you need to have something to look forward to. Chow hall was pretty good and everything was close. During that time, we were studying, and I was kind of irritated that I was a field radio operator. I had a feeling I was going to be in the COC the entire time and just like surrounded by garrison life. And it kind of got me a little bit depressed because at this time I didn't know whether I was going to be a good father to my kids or not. And I was kind of worried about what kind of person that I was going to become. And I wanted to go to combat because I won't lie. During boot camp, they did talk about that, $500,000 you get for a life insurance policy. And in my mind, that would raise my kids better than me raising my kids because I was a piece of shit in my own eyes. Even though I had the EGA, I was a Marine, I had all that, I didn't feel like I was anything special. I felt like I was just a former drug dealer who happened to have a kid and didn't know how to be a father, even though I already helped raise my sisters, but I felt like it was not something that I was good enough for. And I remember this lady comes in my comm class and she looks at us and she interrupts a class and she says, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines is going to be going to Afghanistan in the fall. So once you guys get out, once you guys get out of comm school, there's going to be a small workup in the summer. And then you guys would be going into Afghanistan after if you guys they're looking for volunteers to go. Right. And I remember hearing that, and I asked those, where's 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines located? They're like Camp Pendleton, California. Me with my family up in Northern California, I figured that's a lot closer than going to Camp Lejeune, which could be the other options. I can guarantee being Camp Pendleton for this workup and have an opportunity to see my children. Or I can try to fucking figure out how to be a half-ass father across the country, because I wasn't married to my girlfriend at the time. So I raised my hand and volunteered. And it had nothing to do with combat, although the idea of going to combat was a lot more interesting to me than going into some kind of garrison unit in Lejeune. And then fucking half the other class decides to raise their hand too. I'm like, fuck. It's like I felt bad because I'm like, I hope you guys aren't raising your hands because we're all going in this together. Like I'm going for completely selfish reasons. But it also felt good to go to the new unit with all the guys from my comm school because apparently like the comm office back in Camp Pendleton for 3-5, a lot of them were like getting out already. So they needed radio operators specifically for that billet. So about 15 to 16 of us ended up coming over to 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. And as soon as we were done with comm school, we got in the car, we like some of us flew, then we got in the on a van or a bus to Camp Pendleton, and no one told them that we were coming. So it was like the weekend when we're flying in or driving in, we get to Camp Pendleton and I don't know what happened. They had no one to check us in, so we ended up spending the night in the fucking firehouse in Camp Mateo because they didn't have barracks or anyone to check us in until Monday. So they got us pizza, that's very rare for the Marine Corps to give you anything when you show up. But Yeah, it was our first experience with fleet was being completely forgotten and not having a place to sleep at first. So we get there, huge boot drop shows up, all of us, and yeah, now we're in fleet life and trying to learn how to get everything organized, go to SIF to get all our equipment and get all this stuff done to start getting into the workup of everything that's going. Yeah, so that was it. What was it like meeting my senior NCOs and senior lances, I should say? So, us showing up, it was a different experience altogether because yes, there was the fuck around period when it comes to boot camp and like not really in MCT and not even in comm school, but in the fleet, it's a different beast altogether. So we showed up and they started doing the whole thing like, yeah, they get a little loud, they get us in order and do all the things. But I remember, I think it was not even day one. They were like, who here can drive stick? I could drive stick. Why can I drive stick? Because one of the things we used to do in high school was go to Modesto and street race in those fucking vineyards and shit in Lodi and Modesto and all that. So I knew how to drive stick. So, but not anyone else did. And like even to this day, if I have a fucking rent a car that's a stick shift, no one can fucking steal it because it's stick shift. But I can drive it. So they were like, all right, Long, you're DD tonight. I'm like, fuck, I guess I'm DD for my corporals right now. So, all right. So we start going, we start bar hopping. I'm just driving around. I don't drink, so I don't care. But we started going all over. And somewhere along through the night, one of them says, you know what would be a good idea right now? If we get some Craigslist hookers. No fucking joke. I'm like, I don't have an opinion in this way, shape, or form, right? So they're just like, all right, whatever. So they go ahead, they get they do their whole little ordering shit, right? And I remember I brought them over to the hotel. I won't say what hotel. It has a blue roof and it's in San Clemente. Figure it out from there if you guys are watching. But I get there, they go upstairs, they have like the whole text message to figure out they're on the way. I don't have any interest. I leave. I haven't been to San Clemente before, so I go out into town. It's like 9 o'clock at night, so not a lot going on. But, you know, it's a beach town. I'm walking around. I'm probably gone for a couple of hours while they're dealing with their thing. All right, and I'm like, whatever. I look, I'm like, it's getting a little bit late, around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I go back to the hotel, and I remember this because it was very unique. You park on the bottom, and in order to get to the rooms, you have to take the elevator, right? And so I take the key card I have to activate the elevator. Elevator opens up, and this guy comes out, and he kind of looks like a Temu version of Eminem, right? Like he looks like he watches Slim Shady a lot, right? Tall white guy, gray sweater, like the wife beater and all that. And a couple of girls are with him, right? And they're just leaving, looking happy as shit. Nothing in my head. I'm like, whatever. So I get in, go upstairs, go to the room that they said to. And why are all my corporals like crying and naked and having like all that? Like they just got robbed. They got robbed by Craigslist fucking hookers and Temu Eminem over there. And they were fucking plastered from all the drinking. So they had no way to So I'm looking, I'm like, fuck, time is running out. We are going to be in formation like in a few hours. They didn't have any of their IDs. They had none of their wallets. They had none of the shit that they were going. They had nothing. So whatever. I started ferreting them down the elevator to the car, get them into the car, get them back to base. And I remember going to base and getting to the front of the gate once I had everyone in. And I'm losing time, right? Like the sun is starting to peak because it's taking a long time to do this whole shit, try to wrangle these guys up. And I remember the fucking guy who's in the front, he looks at me, he looks at them, and he's like, do I even want to know what the fuck happened? I was like, these are my corporals, and I was DD last night. He's like, roger that, lit up a cigarette, turned around, and I drove inside, got to the fucking barracks, parked, and I moved on with my life. I went to my barracks, got in the shower, got changed, and went into formation, and I was there. And yeah, I didn't say shit. They didn't show up on time. Everyone got kind of fucked up because the corporals didn't even show up to the morning formation. So staff sergeant was pissed. The other corporals that weren't involved were pissed. Everyone's all upset. Like the other boots who were with me had no idea what happened. No one's saying shit. I'm not saying shit. And like I remember after that time, the Fleet Marine Corps became very easy for me because since I didn't snitch, sorry, I did it right now. Since I didn't snitch, since I didn't say anything, all of a sudden, like my corporal was like, "Hey, Long, going to the PX, you want anything? I'm hitting Roberto's. You need anything to eat?" Like they were always like, they kept getting, and I don't know whether it was because they respected me or because they knew I had blackmailing privileges, but they were always super chill. But as soon as there was an opportunity to get me the fuck out of the comm shop, they did. I was immediately attached as a E1. I wasn't even I wasn't a PFC or anything. I had nothing but blank on my collar. I was sent with the arrow, like to be the air RO to do airstrikes with an officer. Like they wanted me out of the comm shop as soon as possible. And that was the first person recommended. And that could have been because they thought that I was not snitching and I would do my job and I had the team first. Or it could be because they didn't want me being in the vicinity with all the stories. Doesn't matter. I was no longer in the comm shop and I wasn't treated that much like a boot yet. And so whatever happened between A and B, not their problem anymore. They took care of they still had 15 boots that they can train and put them in different positions. For me, I was starting to get whored out, and my career of getting whored out in the Marine Corps started at that point in time. Started with the Air RO. It's like an officer and a staff NCO. They would be out. They had like that little laser pointer thing. So in case they were calling for fire, it would drop. I was their comm person. So I would do the SATCOM and the radio for them. I would set it up out in the field, but I didn't have that much experience except for comp school, right? So I wasn't as quick and as good as it. I could load the crypto, I can carry the radio, I can get it, but I wasn't a master at the 9 lines and everything else that had to happen. So he ended up sending me to the FIST team with Kilo Company. And that's when I got to learn a lot of the different types of capabilities that the radio has. I was their radio operator. And the FIST team is like the forward operating guys. So you'd have a guy who was good at mortars, another one for arty, another one for air, and they would just be forward observers to actually do it. And then I was their radio guy. I just had to set up the radio while they would talk on it, but I would learn how to do all the stuff from there with Kilo Company during the workup of Mojave Viper. And yeah, from there, I mean, that's where I kept going. They kept snatching me up, and I was never with H&S. They kept putting me with different units to do different things as a radio operator until finally we were going to Afghanistan, and they put me with India Company with India Company with their H&S for a second. And I had a huge attitude problem because I still was not really having the regular kind of Marine Corps career. My mindset was still very bitter for some reason, and I couldn't tell you. I mean, I had a lot of reasons to be bitter, but the Marine Corps itself, I had a hard time with the leash, if that makes sense. And so having someone tell me to do something that was like fuck games when there was other shit going on, it used to rub me the wrong way. I kind of get it now, but it was hard. It was hard because I wanted to be respected as an adult. The fuck games that they were doing, they wanted me to be DD and shit just because I could drive so they can act like asses and get prostitutes and shit. That pissed me off. So, you know, I didn't appreciate that shit and all the games that they would do. It seemed really frat boyish, and, you know, I get it later on because specific incidents we're talking about for the fuck games that Marines do to their new guys, it's because it is kind of everyone who gets in, they're young, 18, 19 years old. This is their first experience as adults going into a realm that's really a boys club. And sometimes they act like kids because they had a child. I didn't have a childhood. I went straight into adulthood at 13, and I didn't get the chance to be like just a normal person. So I was already done with the fuck around games. And so, because I wanted to get shit done. And I think that made me a lot more bitter than I needed to be at that age. And so I kind of enjoyed the fact that I was never around a lot of them. I kept getting attached out to do specific jobs. And, you know, at that point, going with the Lion Platoon, India Company for Afghanistan, it was kind of a relief. But that would end up being a whole different experience for me over in Sangin. When I got there, we flew over. I was with their HNS for a while, and I already had a reputation as somebody that had a problem with authority. I was considered, my experience with going with India Company was they already had this assumption that I was good at being a radio operator, but I had a problem with taking orders, which wasn't true, but that's how the word on the grapevine went. Because, there's a lot of new Marines that came in, and obviously they had some stories about each one. And when I was with HNS, or India HNS, Headquarters and Support, there was this... I don't know. I was very vocal. I should have just shut the fuck up. Honestly, I should have just shut the fuck up, but my mouth would never shut up. And I remember during one of our first times being there, they had this idea that using these collapsible ladders over the wall would be a way to prevent us from causing damage, and we can get over the walls and get into compounds, and then we could just kind of do that for a while. I don't know who came up with this fucking idea, but Sparks was our first guy who did it. So they set up the ladder, they put it up. Sparks is a machine gunner. He claws up, he gets up at the top, and he starts opening up the second ladder. While he's doing that, we're in Afghanistan. And in Afghanistan specifically was known for two things. Number one, IEDs. It's the Middle East, IEDs were a big thing, right? Number two, for Afghan specific, it was massive for snipers. So if you see this very massive black man on top of this roof with full-on Marine Corps cami, and you're just sitting on your roof with your rifle, what are you going to do? You're going to shoot. So while he's opening up this ladder, they took a shot and went right through his armpit out the other side, and he collapsed out. That was our first casualty of saying in Afghanistan. John Sparks, I got him on my wrist right here. I knew he was, I think he was from the South. I knew he never cussed. I knew he was like a really hardcore believer from what I understood. He was a machine gunner. He was like one of those guys. He was just really a nice guy from what I understood. I didn't get to meet him myself. I remember seeing him on the way there when we got stopped in Romania. That's a different story. But yeah, that like hurt a lot of people, because I think that's the first time they opened their eyes and realized like this isn't a fucking game. A lot of our corporals and sergeants, outside of like a couple, like Peel was the only one that's been on multiple combat deployments. Everyone else was like on Muse before this. So this is like the first time like a lot of them were in combat. This was like an eye-opening thing that this is a real situation. Like we're actually in a combat zone. And I think the death of Sparks is what made it so they were, they woke up and stopped playing the fuck games, if that makes sense. I was attached to Ronin 3 after a while with a corporal. I won't say his name because there's some stuff that happened later on that he ended up getting him removed from there, and I ended up becoming the lead comm person on this forward operating base, Fulad. But I got attached to this unit, and Lieutenant Patterson, he was a Mustang, right? So I didn't know what a Mustang was at the time. I found out from there. It means he was enlisted, then he became an officer, and now he was an officer of Marines in a combat zone. And when he was told he was getting me, they told him, like, he has a problem with authority. He doesn't like listening to shit, blah, blah, blah. And like, he was like, well, why are you giving them to me? Like, I don't want to have a problem, right? But he was like, you've dealt with enlisted, you were enlisted, you know how to talk with enlisted after that. And after a while, what he told me, because I talked to Patterson later, because he let me know this. He's like, what he told me, he's like, I was getting a lot of the shit that was going wrong. My seniors specific seniors would just kind of blame me if a mistake happened just because I was the boot. And it was like just the thing they would do on the MEU. That's what happened to them. So they figured that's just what you do. But this was a different kind of situation. We were in a combat zone. It doesn't matter. If you fuck up, you own it. And he found out really quickly, if I made a mistake, I was the first one to own my mistake. I would not pass the buck off of anyone. Like, fuck, I dropped that thing. Or, oh, fuck, I lost this thing. Like, that was just who I was. And after a while, he realized that the corporal that was in charge of me, even though he knew how to use radios, it was like a weird disconnect for him to realize we're in a combat zone. So he would treat it like Mojave Viper, where he would do like weird calm things, like unplug the radio, and then I'd show up and realize it's not working. But we're in a combat zone. We're not in a fucking training exercise. So eventually he got removed from Fulad. And then I was the guy who was in charge of radios and communications for Fulad as a PFC. And I was just in charge of it. And from there, I did the one thing that not a lot of radio operators did. I only patrolled. I did the COC every once in a while, but I would patrol all the time. The way we had to set it up, we would have one platoon on post, one platoon as QRF, and the other platoon on patrol. And then the QRF and patrol might switch that day. So that way we had two patrols going out twice a day. And as a radio operator, I could be in COC, but I preferred to be out in the field. So when they asked me if I wanted to go out in the field, I started going. And then I got addicted to being on patrol. So I would patrol once, come back, fill up my water, go right back out over and over and over again for like 6 months. And I did that every day, 7 days a week for a long time. And it was something that I wanted to do because I realized I was really good in a combat situation as a radio operator, and I didn't like the idea of being in the COC and not having control of the comms, like having to wait for someone to call up when they're in combat or they're in a tick, and you're just waiting for them to call up and it's all static and things are going all fucked up and you can hear them stressed on that side. I'm stressed on this side because I need to give them support, but I can't do anything because I'm in the fucking cock. So I can't do anything. So I'd rather be in the field and trust somebody else to go. And then when we had these reservist guys show up who can also help on radio, it allowed me to be in the field more often. And I felt more comfortable in that role. And a little morbidly as well, I also was still hoping that something bad would happen to me so I would get taken out and the fucking life insurance policy would go back home. I was struggling pretty heavily mentally because I was really terrified at going back home. At the same time, I also felt like I had really good purpose here. And I was struggling pretty hard, but I was really good at being a comm Marine over there. Specific missions that we can kind of go over. There was the biggest one that we were doing was the push of the 611, and 611 has to do with like the grid points, and the road up the 611 on longitude, latitude, whatever. That's what it was called, the 611. One of these incidents while we were going, I think it was south. I can't remember exactly what we were doing, but we were pushing south. The way that we were doing everything is like when we first arrived at Falad, I remember they tried to raid Falad because we were taking it from the Brits. And everyone just kind of got up on the walls and started shooting down. 50 cal goes off. And we were very excited to get into that first combat. And after that, we had to clear the city out. Falad was in a cemetery that was in the edge of the city. And we had the green zone to one side and the city to the other. And we're right on that road to 611. And the way we had to do it was almost like our 5s and 25s. When IED goes off, you do a quick loop, and then we slowly open up. And while we were doing these opening up, it was around, it was January 1st, 2011, when we were really far south. We pushed the Taliban back pretty far at this point in time, and we were going through this alley, and I remember I ran up this alley, and then I was told to go find Sergeant Castillo, because he was a squad leader at the time, so I had to go back. I was running back and forth. And I had to give him some comms. And while we were pushing, I was behind Castillo at this time. It was Castillo, Abdul, me, and then Heiser. And we were going to this, and Castillo turns around, and he was like, hey, there's this rock line here, so be careful. There's possibly a pressure point here, right? He was like, hey, be careful when you step up here. There's possibly an IED. And he tells Abdul to tell the ANA, because we were one of the only places that was working with the ANA in junction, in tandem with our unit. We were trying to do that whole integration shit. And so while we're walking, he tells me, hey, Long, tell Heiser so he can pass it down. I turn around to go tell Heiser. Abdul turns around to tell the ANA, and he steps right on the fucking pressure plate right next to me. And at that point, the IED goes off. It blows the fuck up. I was standing and I was staring at Heiser, and then I thought I was at In-N-Out Burger. I really thought I was at In-N-Out Burger because I saw nothing but whites. I smelled something that smelled like chemicals. I was not there mentally anymore. I was gone. I was hit really hard with this IED. And I think it felt like a couple seconds maybe it felt like long minutes, honestly. But I remember Abdul comes from the sky and just sends me back into reality. And I look and I see Abdul in this alleyway, just laid down. I go over, I grab his thing and his flak and I pull him and he kind of accordions out and I realize he's dead. There's nothing I can do about it. He's gone, right? And then when I turn around again, I see Sergeant Steele laying down in the alleyway over there. So I start booking it over to him. Doc Miller comes, and I yell for Doc. He gets over there. We roll him over. I start passing up the 9 line, and we get him. We finally get him on a medevac. We had to carry his ass over to the truck because we were in this really tight area. The truck couldn't drive, so getting him over there was a bit of a challenge. But once we got him there, we moved. Heiser tells me I'm bleeding from the ear. It was like because had a little piece of bone through it, and it was from the femur of Abdul, and that specific incident I remember because I got back and I had to go see the doc and he's looking at me. He's trying to figure out, like, I'm bleeding. I've seen a little bit of blood. And I remember Peyton. I think his name was Peyton. He was the guy who was the combat engineer with the little metal detector and shit. He said that it was like 20 something pounds of HME that blew up next to me for it's like 24 pounds maybe or something like that, but it was only a meter away from me. And Abdul stepped on it and then boom, and me and Castillo in this alleyway that was compressed, it went boom. You could watch it on YouTube. It's on YouTube. You could watch the whole thing.
Hey, Abdul, tell him to step over this fucking pile, okay? Hey, Long, step over this pile, all right? Don't step over these rocks. Don't step on these rocks.
And, the doc was saying, it only takes like a water bottle filled with HME for your heart to stop when a bomb goes off. And you took like 20 pounds of it. And I remember the radio was fucked. I'm bleeding, all that. The only thing that wasn't fucked was my Bible. My Bible was the only thing. I never even read the damn thing, but someone gave it to me on the way to Afghanistan. And then I was like, I guess I'll start reading this. And that was the first time I started opening and started reading that every night. I was still very angry. I started praying, and I was praying very angry ones because I really wanted to die at that point in time. I was just really didn't think I was going to be able to go home. And the closer I got to the end of the deployment, the more afraid I got because I didn't really think I could be a normal person anymore at this point in time. We were in combat all the time, and then it started to die out when it got really, really cold, and it started to pick up again when it got to springtime. And yeah, I was struggling. At the end of the deployment, I picked up all the way to Lance Corporal while I was over there. But at the end of the deployment, they were asking if anyone wanted to stay, and I volunteered to stay. But because I wasn't an 11, they said, no, that's not the billet we need. So I ended up having to go back home, and I didn't realize how much was going on mentally with me until much later. Yeah. Going back. Getting to Afghanistan itself was a trip because you in your head, you think you're going to go straight there. You don't realize that you have to hit different bases. I think we stopped in Maine, then we were flying over, and I think we were going to stop in not Kuwait, Kyrgyzstan. We're going to stop at Kyrgyzstan, right? But while we're going over Europe, we had to make an emergency stop. And the emergency stop was because I think our pilot said he felt sick. And he had an emergency landing, and we didn't know where we were. We had to all get off the fucking plane, and we're sitting there in this airport that is there's no windows in the spot that we're at. So we're just there, all cammyed out with our rifles, just sitting around waiting. And we're waiting there for a couple of hours. And what we found out later was the pilot had to stop. They had maybe food poisoning or something was going on, but they could not fly anymore. So they stopped, and the logistics team was trying to figure out what to do with this entire battalion of fucking Marines that are just landed in this emergency stop, right? So we didn't know where we were. And I remember we're all sitting there, we're talking, and it's kind of quiet. But quiet as it can be with a room full of Marines talking to each other, right? And we can hear it's like high heels. Like we know high heels. And then we see this very blonde woman walk around with high heels on. We're like, that doesn't look like the Middle East. And they the one of our seniors gets out and he says, "All right, well, we had an emergency landing, and looks like we're gonna be here for a minute because the pilot is sick. I don't know why they couldn't just get another pilot out, but we are in Romania, Bucharest, or the capital of Romania. Where we were flying there, and they were trying to figure out a lodging situation for all of us to go to, so we had a place to sleep. Why we didn't sleep in the airport doesn't make any sense, especially when considering what happens when we get to Kyrgyzstan afterwards. We'll get to that story, but we're in Romania. We're sitting there, and they said, "All right, they got some buses lined up to go forth, and to get us to wherever we were staying." But with me being with the H&S of India Company, I was going with the captain, the first sergeant, and a couple of the lieutenants into this very sketchy looking van to follow the rest of the buses. Why am I attached with our senior leadership? I don't know. I just remember following because you just do what you're told. And I get in this van, and I remember getting into this van, and there's this TV screen in the back of the van, and it's just guy. He's got a blonde ass mohawk with the fucking denim thing. He's on stage. He's doing this. It's like paused right here, and he's standing like this. I'm looking at that. I'm very confused. And then I realize the driver of this fucking van is the guy on the screen. He gets in, and then when everyone is inside with our fucking gear, he turns it on and then just starts playing, and it's him on stage like doing some EDM, some fucking bullshit, like right? And he fucking floors it. It's like 11:30 at night. It's dark as fuck. He's flooring it through Eastern Europe, just driving around fast as fuck. We don't even have seatbelts on. We're going off. I'm looking out the window. And it's like that movie Hostel, right? It just looks like abandoned buildings and shit. And then every once in a while, you'll see like a Mercedes-Benz dealership, just pristine condition. But he's flying, we're hitting everything, and he's singing along to his own fucking song in the front. And then like he burns tires, gets to the front, stops, and we're at the Radisson Inn, Bucharest. I'm just like, I don't know what happened from point A to point B, but we're at a decent hotel right now. I get out, I'm confused. We get inside the hotel. We get all assigned. I get assigned with my boy Lewis from comm school. He's from Mississippi. I don't know. He had a very thick Mississippi accent, just like a 6'7" black man from Mississippi. And him and me get put into this hotel room in Romania, and we don't know how to turn on the power. This is the rest of the world. Like, we're used to America, right? Everything has power. I can just walk into a room, hit a switch, it's going to turn on. That's not the case in Europe. Europe, you're supposed to put your key card in, but no one told us shit because we weren't supposed to be here in the first fucking place. So we were just in the dark in this hotel, went to sleep, woke up, went downstairs to do the breakfast. I remember I got in the elevator, and there's I see my boy Hallett's there, and I'm like, we're going downstairs to do the continental breakfast shit. We still have our rifles, and we're in our uniforms. We're going down. There's this German guy who's there too. And, we get into the room, and I remember we get into the little kitchen area, or like the dining area. And it's a pretty good spread, right? We got all the food, everything. They even have like a juice bar and all that shit. And they pull out the works, probably because they knew they just had a whole battalion of Marines show up. So they just were overworking and doing the most. I sit down. Hallett's over there, and he sees the juice girl. Yeah, he sees the juice girl. He was like, "That's the one right there." So, what do you mean the one? He's like, I'm gonna get her information. He's like, "You're gonna get the information of a random Romanian girl?" He's like, "Yeah." He's just watch. I got this. And he gets up, he starts walking over, and this is all he does. He goes over, he asks for juice, she pours him juice, and he just stands there. He just keeps drinking it while looking at her the whole time. Doesn't say anything, just stares at her, right? And I'm sitting at my table, and there's a German guy right there. I'm like, "Hey, fucker, look at this. You see that fucker over there? Look at him. He really thinks he's gonna get her number right now." Now the other staff is harassing her because he's getting her. They're just coming back. He comes back. I'm like, "What's your strategy?" "I'm going to keep getting juice until she realizes that, I'm interested." I'm pretty sure she knows you're interested. It's like, "Does she speak English?" He's like, "I don't know." So that was like one of the funniest things. We're just watching them do this weird juice thing. He drank like the whole fucking pitcher of juice trying to talk to her, and he never said anything. I'm looking at the German guy. I was like, "Is this like that strategy that would work here?" He's like, "I don't think so. I don't think so at all." After that, I think the evening came around and we found out that the pilot's feeling better. We get back on the plane, we start going. I remember he actually called up on the fucking like little intercom thing. He's like, "Hey, my stomach's feeling better. We're all good. And we're gonna get back on the track." And we start moving off. We get to Kyrgyzstan, and when we get to Kyrgyzstan, it's like an Air Force base. We didn't get no lodging there, and we were there for like 2 days, and they just had to sleep on the tarmac in the like fucking fall. It was cold as fuck. And how do Marines stay warm? We did slap boxing at night just to stay warm. We're just smacking the fuck out of each other, and we weren't even allowed to sleep. Like we couldn't sleep. We weren't allowed to like go in the berthing, and like we went to the chow hall. We had like very specific food. We couldn't take like the random snacks that were just there, like Pop-Tarts and protein bars. Not allowed to touch that. Only allowed to have whatever food they would cook for us at that point in time. So it was like way more strict than Romania was, probably because we ate everything in Romania. By the time they're like, "No, you're not doing that shit at all." And then we started heading over to Afghanistan. And I think once we got to Leatherneck, that's when everyone was starting to get divvied up to what they were going to do. And that's how I got attached to Ronin 3. So there was one weird incident because we used a couple of trucks to kind of ship dead bodies around, right? It didn't matter whether they were Marines, if they were interpreters, if they were locals. If we had a jet, we put them in the back and they would move. Somehow, some way in Leatherneck, there may or may not have been a very dried out foot in the back of the vehicle that was lodged into something. And maybe we might have taken it out and played a little football with it, and then the army just showed up, and maybe we threw it at an army guy, and then there was instantaneous throwing up. I don't know. But it was just a weird, very specific, like, oh, look at it. It was like mummified. So I don't know how long it was there, but it was a lot of shipping. And this was like 2/3 into the deployment, like way after, when we're so desensitized to shit. We just like, we don't know whose foot it was. It was just dried out piece of meat at this point in time, but you can definitely tell it was something. Who knows who it was? That was, trying to glaze over that one was a difficult one, but like, it kind of showed like, we were really used to things like that. I remember there was a certain time when IDs would go off and shots would go off, and we didn't even flinch. We just another day. And then every day you would get calls, 2 or 3 people would be down, and you just didn't hear anything because we had about 25 killed, but we were combat inefficient within a month. So it's just because so many casualties got down, people losing limbs, arms, taken out, sniper fire, and they just couldn't fight anymore. And we were just so down. We were down to a skeleton crew. And this was our first deployment first combat deployment. And we realized like, this is just life. And we just accepted that that's what it was. We didn't realize how bloody the deployment was until afterwards. So this whole little foot incident didn't even register that it was a problem. It was just a weird thing that we kind of like, oh, well, look at this. That's interesting. Catch. Just playing catch with a body part. That's wild. Later on in the deployment, because I patrolled twice a day until I couldn't patrol anymore. And the reason that happened was there was one time we went to a compound and I was walking through. Ironically, the same NCO that got hit with the IED with me, he was the NCO for this. He actually got shipped out to Germany and came back. And so I didn't see him for a while. And then all of a sudden, Sergeant Castillo was back. I'm like, oh shit, he's back. And I was on patrol with him again. It was like the last 2 weeks of Sangin. And we were going through this compound. I remember we got through one of those little metal doors, and when we busted open the door, it was nothing but a huge poppy field, but it was up on a hill. So we were up on a hill. You had to walk down to get to the poppy field. And so when he busted in the door, you see all the poppies around there, and I was following him. We start walking, and while we're walking, my left foot goes into a gopher hole. I don't know if they have gophers in Afghanistan, but it was definitely a hole big enough for my fucking foot to go in. It went down, and because it went down, the integrity of the cliff face gave out on my other foot, and so went down. That started to slide, so I started sliding down, and you just hear the popcorn bag up my leg, and I was dangling there, and then it pulls out, and then I roll down the hill a little bit. I couldn't walk. I tried to stand up and my foot was like on fire, sending the shots up. And I remember Zarate comes up and he looks like the Zodiac killer on steroids, right? Just jacked, fucking Coke glasses and all that, comes over. He's like, "You good?" I was like, "I can't even walk. I can't stand." So he gets up. I have my rifle. I sling my arm over him. He has his rifle in his left hand. We sling over. We start humping it back until I have to get myself fucking 9-lined out because I can't walk. And then I go back, and I remember looking at my boot, realizing the moment I take off this boot, I'm never getting it back on again. And that was pretty miserable because I think we stole some fucking crutches from like an Afghani family or something. So it's like, "Hey, you need these?" "No, it's ours now." And they brought it to me because I couldn't even stand. And I took off the boot and it was like black from my toes all the way up to my knee. The ligaments just like popped, but it wasn't broken. So I didn't get to leave Afghanistan. I just was stuck there because it was just how it was. And they put me right in the seat I didn't want to be in, which was the fucking COC to talk on the fucking radio all the time. And man, that shit was wild. And yeah, and then I just wasn't allowed to patrol anymore. Oh, I did skip another story too, but I'll talk about that in a second. But I remember when I got the fucking leg was all messed up and I wasn't able to walk. I just couldn't. Going back home, I couldn't even remember. I needed those crutches the entire time till I got back to America. And then after America, I had to figure out how to recover myself and how to do it. And thanks to a lot of the guys there, they were helping me out through that period. Another one of these missions that we were on was this, like I told you, we were doing the push for 611. Every platoon was doing it. So first platoon, second platoon, third platoon. I was part of third platoon, and we were all separating out. We were going, and there was this very specific incident where we are going through this alleyway and we're moving down, and while we were turning, I wish I had like a rock formation to show it to you guys, but we were going. I remember there was this wall to my left, and on the other side of the wall would be this whole wadi that goes across, right? And on the other side, you see the buildings across the wadi and all that. It was like a little valley right there, right? And we had to go. And I can't remember, we were pushing forward and we were trying to go to a specific location. But while we were going, there would be this alleyway here and the street right here, and the wadi would be right there with a small opening. And when we were crossing, our combat engineer, he was walking across. It was him, Stengel, me, Owens, and some shots went off from the alleyway, right? Alleyway shoots off, boom, goes through, ended up hitting our engineer through both legs, just pop, pop, right? Took him out, we dragged him out, called up the 9 lines. They got his tourniquets on fast as fuck. I remember Lieutenant's like, "That was the fastest I've ever seen 2 tourniquets go on." I didn't put the tourniquet on. Someone else did. I was calling up his 9 line. And then I look up after they're taking him and I'm starting to call up, and I look, and Stengel's all the way across the fucking alleyway. So the alleyway's right here. Shots are coming down. He's by himself on the other side of the fucking thing. And Owens is with, Sergeant Owens is with me and Lieutenant Patterson on this side. And we're just saying, how the fuck did you get over? Like, he heard shots and he's like, went to the other side, and he's by himself, right? And the shots are going off, and he's bleeding from the face. So what had happened was when the rounds went off, it actually like rode his cheekbone or some shit and like went across. And he was like, "Oh no, I'm good. I'm like, you were bleeding from the face." He's like, "I'm good. I think I'm all right." He's like, "It's okay." He sits there for a second. He's like, "I think I got shot in the leg though," because he said his leg was on fire. And I think what happened was he had shrapnel that came in and it got in. So he ended up leaving. Once we were able to get him and pull him across, I think he ended up going with our engineer in the thing, but we were still stuck in a tick. And at this time, the army wasn't there as well, because someone across the wadi now was shooting. They thought they were getting shot at by the PKM on this side. So while these guys are shooting at us, someone across the wadi is shooting at them. No one even knows that we're fucking down here. And it's a very big round taking out this fucking wall. And we didn't know where to go. We're just fucking stuck at this point in time. I got the 9 lines up and I'm talking the guy on the radio. He's a butter bar. He's talking, he's trying to get a sit rep. I'm giving him the sit reps the best that I can. And shit's just keep changing fast as fuck over and over and over again. I'm just, fuck, I don't really know. And then Lieutenant Patterson says, the only thing we could do, we have to go into this alleyway and get to, because it was the only door. The wall was not going to hold its integrity for a long time. We had to get into the compound that was right there. And that means we would have to go in the alleyway, go into the door, get a head count, make sure everyone was good, even though we were in the middle of fire. But we're getting fire from both sides, so it doesn't matter. We just need to move. And I remember he was giving the sit rep, and I just told him what we were going to do, and he kept asking for a sit rep. I was like, listen, shut the fuck up for a second. We're about to run in here. I'll give you a head count. I'll let you know if everyone made it. And I just hear Roger on the other side. This is when I was a PFC, and there's a reason I'm bringing that up. We get inside the compound. No one got hit. No one else got hit in this entire time. We get inside the compound, and Lieutenant Patterson does a count. Everyone's here. Everyone who's not gone. So Stengel, the engineer, are gone. And if they had an escort, whoever was supposed to be there was there. And he was like, all right, we need something, like some kind of show of force. Ask what we have available. So I go back, talk to the lieutenant who's on there, who I just told to shut the fuck up, which, retrospect, shouldn't have done that. So he says the only thing available is an Excalibur missile. I don't know what an Excalibur missile is, right? So I'm doing it. I'm looking at the map. I'm saying, we're here. Something over there. I'm working with Lieutenant Patterson, and we start passing it up. Turns out it's like danger close for this specific ordinate to go down, but we need something. So if that's all that's available, that's all that's available. Send that shit. I still remember it was because it was daytime when the firefight started, and now it was like almost nighttime. So, and there was cloud coverage, and you could see this white light coming from the clouds coming up on the top. We were like, oh, this is a lot bigger than we thought it was going to be. And so we get down, everyone gets down, and the whole earth shakes. And finally the shot stopped, right? And we look, and you can see, we get over there, it's weapons and shit. So we hit the right building. And we're like, oh, fuck, we won. After that, the next day I picked up the Lance Corporal, and I don't know who, there may be a very specific person who was there, who was like, who's that? And that's PFC Long. After I cussed out the lieutenant, he was like, you mean Lance Corporal Long? I got promoted the next day because of that. And then when I got home, I got my NAM for calling a bunch of 9 lines for keeping people alive and calling for fire and killing like all this shit. It was like one of those really long ones. I'm like, it sounds way more impressive than it actually was, because it was just a chaotic mess. And I was just like, this is what I could do. Call. They died, they lived, we're good. But apparently, that's worthy of an award. So that was all right, cool. And it was weird because me and 2 other guys were up there. We're just like, I don't know what we did to get up here, but all right, let's get Roberto's after this. That's the only thing you could do in Afghanistan. It was such a messy situation because it was nonstop combat for like the longest time. And, for a lot of it was our first combat deployment, and we just had to learn how to adapt to it. And we didn't realize how brutal that deployment was until we came back and tried to get back into Marine Corps life. Because even getting to the fleet originally, like we went straight to workup and then straight to Afghanistan. We didn't get the fucking garrison Marine Corps that everyone else got. And they was so irritating for a lot of the garrison Marines that did not go on deployment, or who were like staff NCOs. They don't have a car. They don't have an Afghani ribbon to deal with us because we didn't give a fuck about what you said. You didn't do shit with your career, which isn't true. Like rounds don't fly without supply. I get that. But like, it was hard to respect somebody who is rank-wise superior when they don't know what it feels like to watch like half your friend group get fucking mowed down. They don't know what it feels like to have like that burn on your skin from IEDs. They don't know what it feels. They don't know what the sound of a round going by past your face sounds like. It doesn't sound like the movies at all. And like when you first hear it, you're like, oh shit, this is real. Like this is going off. It's completely different. And then this guy who on paper is higher ranked than you, but has almost 0 life experience. Why the fuck do I give a shit what you think? And trying to translate that, we were a really roughneck group of Marines at this point in time. We were salty as fuck. All of us who used to be boots were now the saltiest fucking Marines on this fucking base. And we didn't understand that. So when we had a boot drop, our boots found it hard to respect us because we were fucking crazy. I didn't know we were crazy. I thought, and even for me, I was not trying to be. I was trying to be as understanding to my boots as possible, listen to what they say and try to help them out, make them the best Marines possible. But some of our guys, they just didn't, they just wanted to do those fuck games we talked about because that was like the only stress relief that they got, which was stupid, but it was also a way to cope, which that started to make sense. For thinking about it, for me personally, I finally got married when I got back. The crazy stories that our guys used to do, nothing crazy insane, in my opinion, thinking back about it. But for like me specifically, I was married, so I no longer lived on base. I no longer lived in barracks. I had my wife, I had my stepson, I had my daughter, and I had my house in Oceanside. So I got to go back. But I guess when they were back, they did the dumbest stuff, like the duct tape on the mattress and throw it off the second floor and shit like that. Just the real stupid shit that used to go on, and they used to do all kind of dumb stuff like that. And then when we went into Mojave Viper again, because I was an attachment, I got moved from Ronin. I was no longer with India. They put me back with H&S, and then they realized I wasn't good at H&S anymore, so they sent my happy ass to 81s. Now, Lieutenant Patterson became the captain of weapons company, or he became the company commander for weapons company, and he requested for me to be part of 81s. Now there was a specific reason for that, and being a part of 81s means it's like the mortars are really fucking big and shit. Being a part of 81s was a very strategic plan by him to have me there specifically. Dealing with 81s was different because they were having some interesting things. They would have a lot of fights between the seniors and the boots that were over there because they wanted command respect immediately. So there was like a lot of discontent that was there. But when we went to Mojave Viper, since I was the attachment, I was the attachment that was on YouTube because everyone watched me get blown the fuck up. So that was a pretty popular video. They were like, "You're gonna be Op 4 with like most of the boots for Mojave Viper." I was like, what the fuck is Op 4? And they're like, "You're going to be the terrorist." So I was like, so I get to do whatever I want. Well, not whatever you want, but you can do anything you choose to do that you think the Taliban would do. Okay, cool. So I have all these boots fresh into the military. I'm like, okay, we're going to fuck with these guys. So I remember it was me, Balde. We were in charge of all these boots, and it was the middle of the night. And I remember the guy who was in charge of Op 4, like the NCO of Op 4, he told us, if you guys could steal a weapon, I'll be impressed, right? He's like, because it's very hard for Op 4 to do anything with the amount of like experience that they have. But we just had a huge boot drop of brand new people from boot camp who have no experience with combat whatsoever. It was raining. We get to this compound, and you could see that they had an Overwatch, and I didn't have any weapons. We had no weapons, and as long as we didn't have weapons, they couldn't kill us. So we're just walking around in the middle of this little mop town, and the rain thing on the side, like in boot camp, climbed up the side. So I knew the system to go ahead and do it. And it was 3 stories. So start climbing. My boots are coming with me. We get all the way to the top, and I see the fucking the saw up on top, like just the barrels right there. And it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I remember I got up to the top, I grabbed the barrel, and I was like, "Command, or like control kill. You're fucking dead. Sit down." And so this very chubby Marine, very chubby boots, he has to sit down, right? And we're looking. I get my guys up, and we take a weapon, we just throw it off the fucking thing, and then Balde's down there. He takes the weapon up, and I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna go kill the lieutenant." They're like, "What?" "I'm gonna go kill him. I need you guys to kill whoever you want. Walk down. Remember, control kill. If you start shooting, you can take these weapons and start shooting. Everyone's gonna know. I just want you to walk up, just say control kill, and tell them to lay down." So we start going through. It's dark as fuck. We don't have a flashlight. And I started asking if "Hey, where's the sir at?" He's like, "Oh, he's over there." "Okay, control kill." It's like, fuck. He just sits down, and I finally find the lieutenant. My guys are like escaping out, and I find the lieutenant. I was like, sir, what?" "Control kill." And he was like, son of a bitch. And I run out. I go out the front door. I hit both the fucking watch right there, like control kill. I start booking it out. And the next morning, the fucking NCO comes up and he sees that we have like weapons from the night before. And all those guys we just killed the entire building with no weapons at all. And then my boots are just like, Long's a little bit out of his mind, huh? Just a little bit. So he just went in there with no weapons and killed everybody in the room. So
What were you wearing?
just the dress, the man dress thing. Yeah. So it was fun. It was a fun time. And then but realizing the translation between the boots and us, they realized like we weren't like going off of like Marine Corps etiquette. Like, you look like you folded your things right, you had your shit together, cool. As long as you did what we said, everything would be fine, right? But like I was having a hard time gaining respect, I guess. Maybe not gaining respect is the word, but it was hard time for me to respect my superiors as much because one of them was from Artie and the other one was from Cat. And like, I had like a stack of 9, like 7 or 9. I think it was 7 at the time until my second deployment. Okay, my next deployment, I got a couple more ribbons, but I had like a really large stack compared to the guys who were above me. And so it's like there's like this weird thing in your head when you realize like, I did a lot more than you did. Why do I have to listen to anything you have to fucking say? Which is not something you need in the military. It's a very fucking, like, I could respect the Lance Corporal that has done a lot more because he experienced more than the fucking, the second or the first lieutenant that has like a stack of 3, but he's in charge. And he wasn't a bad lieutenant. He was a good lieutenant. It's just, how can I take him seriously? Right. And then, especially when we found out he was a male model, because once we found out he had pictures online, those got posted all over Camp Pendleton randomly. But not me. I didn't do that. I just saw the pictures. I didn't do it. It's very on brand for something I would do, but nowadays. But back then, no. Yeah, but I was trying to really figure out what I was gonna do mentally, because now that I was home with the wife and kids and having the base housing and all that, I was trying to figure out how to be a normal human being, and it was hard. It was really hard. And then yeah, there was some real translation. I was pretty injured when I came back, and my friend Johnston, he used to wake me up early as fuck. And then we'd go running through the hills of Pendleton until I got my leg back together. And then after we got done with everything, we'd go running again until my leg was strong enough to walk. So I wasn't able to really walk for a while until he really forced me to, doing sprints, long distance running, and then hitting the gym every day until I was like good with my leg. And so like it was a lot of self-healing at that point in time, which really sucked because like the BAS did jack shit. They were like, well, it's not broken, so you should be able to do things. I'm like, I can't stand on it. But it, running through the sand and all that, as much as it hurt, it strengthened it up enough till I was able to actually do some shit. So I fell in love with running and working out, and then some stuff happened. Like after I got married and came back, I found some pretty hard shit, and it started to mess with my head a little bit. Yeah. So when I got back from Afghanistan, I didn't get to talk to my family that much because I was out in a FOB. I never really got to go back to, or I was out in a combat operating post. So there wasn't like electricity, there wasn't phones, there was all that. So when I did get a phone, I called back like maybe twice. And I never got to talk to my girlfriend at the time. Yeah, I think I got to talk to my dad once. And then that was like a weird time for me because I couldn't really register what they were saying. Like they would complain about stupid shit. And nothing like it's serious to them. Like, oh, we're falling behind on this bill, or the car's tire got flat while I was going to, or like things I didn't really care about at this time because I was always going in combat, right? And then like there's some complaints that they didn't really like my girlfriend at the time. They didn't really approve of her generally. They kind of blamed her for the fact that I joined the Marine Corps, which I made that choice. I made the choice to join the Marine Corps. I didn't consult her at all about me joining the Marine Corps, which in retrospect, I should have. But when I got back, I remember I was coming on the parade deck, and I looked around and I saw my sisters and my dad, and I didn't see my girlfriend or my daughter. And I was pretty pissed about it because they didn't think she deserved to see. They didn't think that my girlfriend deserved to see me come back home because they blamed her for me going to Afghanistan in the first place. Yeah, and so I was pretty ticked off about that, as you can imagine, because I would like to see my girlfriend. I would like to see my daughter, and I didn't get to see them on my homecoming. As much as I love my family, that wasn't my whole family, you know? And it's like, oh, well, we called and she didn't answer, so we left. Petty. And I understood. I kind of understood. There was some things they were telling me, but it wasn't translating in my head because I was still coming off the deployment. I was still injured as fuck, and I didn't really understand what was going on. But when I got back to Northern California for my 30-day leave, I talked to her. She came through, and I remember, I feel bad about this still. I was in my room, and she was on her way to come see me, and I had this flood of emotions. Like, first off, who is she going to meet? You know, like I didn't feel like I was whole anymore. And at the same time, I was wondering what she was going to see and what kind of person I would be, if my daughter would even recognize me, because I only got to see her a few times during the workup. And I remember she came in and I was actually scared to look at her. I saw my daughter, I picked her up, and my daughter remembered me instantly. Like, it was like no problem there. I held on to her, and I saw the hurt in my girlfriend's eyes because I couldn't embrace her when I first saw her. And I didn't know how to register that because in my head, I'm hearing all the stuff my family was saying. I'm also scared of what she sees in my face because of everything for the last few months. And my daughter doesn't know shit, you know? So it's like, it was easier to see her because she just sees me as dad. And it was the first time, like, honestly, I was like holding on to her and I realized, like, you know, this is my baby. I need to do everything for my baby. And then I asked her if there's anything. I asked my girlfriend at the time, like my girlfriend, hey, is there anything that you need to tell me about while I was gone? She said no. I proposed to her right there and we got married that Saturday. Like that quickly, right? Church went ahead. They just covered the cost, set the thing up. We got married within like 6 days. Then I got back and, you know, did the whole process. Then I ended up getting the house and all that shit. She moved down. I think it was like about a good few weeks of that was the most peaceful time I had, was with her. We were married. I had my kids. We had the house. Everything was good. Ended up doing the sniper in doc, not by choice. Was told to do it. Ended up dropping out of it. We could talk about that story after, but like, I remember I was kind of going through it mentally a little bit because I remember I was sitting on the couch with my now wife and she gets up. I can't remember what we were watching, but she leaves. And then I get a text on my phone, which was weird. She texts me from the house and she said she had an STD. And I realized that she was unfaithful to me while I was in Afghanistan. And I went from probably the happiest time of my life to completely shattered at that point in time. I started walking through the house trying to find her, and I'm just like, I found her in a closet hiding. And I remember when I opened up that closet and I saw her just laying down, like hiding there in like the fetal position, face in her knees, crying. I'm remembering that she just came, like before me, she was already in this really abusive relationship where this guy just used to strangle her in bed in front of her son. And like no one seemed to care. And she was terrified. And honestly, I left for the Marine Corps like right before our baby was born, and like I was always doing workup shit and I was always gone. So like I wasn't really in her life at all. It was just this random dude who decided to take her in and then just take off for the Marine Corps after getting her pregnant. In her mind, like, I just abandoned her again, especially since I didn't consult her, which I talked about. So now I'm married to this woman that wasn't really faithful to me. We have 2 kids, but we're in a whole new city. We're in a whole new city where no one even knows us anyway. And I told her, I was like, I sat down next to her in the closet. I was heartbroken, but I told her, like, no one knows us here. No one knows this shit. So I can forgive you for this, but we're never going to talk about it again. I had to tell my command because I probably had to get tested. It's part of the thing. And yeah, after that, she really switched up. And there was that thing about her. She was really standoffish before that, but after I forgave her and all that, she became like the ideal military wife. She did all the PTA shit. She won all the things. She did everything she could to be like what someone would really want for someone who was in. But I was like, every day, I had to mentally forgive her for that over and over again. And it really did wear us down because I don't think I ever was able to regain my trust with her. And it was hard to be a full-time family man that, like, when my next deployment started coming up, I was worried that she would not remain faithful to me, even though she's been like the best wife possible after that. So, yeah.
You guys stay married?
Mm-hmm. Stayed married for 17 years. My next deployment was going to be the 15th MEU. So I said I was now a part of 81s, right? So 81s is the very large mortar platoon, but they have a very specific duty on the ship. Like I said, I dropped out of the sniper indoc. I didn't know I was going to do the sniper indoc. I was told I was going to do it. I got orders to do it, so I had to do it. But the reason I was put into 81s was by Lieutenant Patterson put me in there because he wanted me to be part of the trap platoon, which the trap platoon for a MEU is basically the QRF for the deployment. So the tactical response for aircraft. Like if a plane goes down or if something happens in a war zone, the trap platoon goes in first to deal with it, to extract anything that happens, whether the black box, the pilot, whatever it is, that's what they're doing. They're like the first responders. Because of my actions in Afghanistan, Lieutenant Patterson wanted me to be a part of the trap platoon, to be the first one in, especially since he knew I really enjoyed combat. That was where that's the only place I actually felt a sense of peace, was in the most chaotic situations. So he was like, this would be the perfect place for you, right? So after I dropped out of the indoc, there's a whole story with that. He brought me into the office, and I didn't even know he was the company commander at the time. He's the one that told me, he's like, I didn't even know you wanted to be a part of Banshee. I was like, I didn't want to be a part of Banshee. They told me to be a part of Banshee, but I love those guys, so I was gonna, I'm cool with it, right? Because I did some work with them in Afghanistan for a minute. But he was like, well, if you want training in that later on, I'll get you ready to do it, but I want you in the trap team for this reason, because I want you in 81s to become part of trap team. All right. So I stayed with the 81s. I did the whole thing. I didn't do another indoc. I didn't do any of that. I just stayed with them. Going on the MEU was different. It was weird. Going on a military ship, we were on the USS Peleliu, which I think they recommissioned because it was decommissioned. They recommissioned it for this deployment specifically. So it was an old-ass ship that they were like, this is going to work now. Put them on. So we're there, and oh, man. What happened? We left, went to Hawaii first. Got to check out Hawaii for a minute, but we were on there for like a day or two to do some resupply before we started heading up to Asia. So we did, there was nothing really significant about Hawaii except for it was like the last place I didn't need a battle buddy to walk around. So, because it was an American state. So I didn't need a battle buddy, but you should have had one. Still walked around, got to see Hawaii for the first time. And then we went to Thailand. And then, Thailand was interesting. So we got to Phuket, Thailand, and the first day that we're there, I was given the duty of bus patrol. So I was just, the bus NCO or whatever. I wasn't even NCO at the time. I was just in charge of the bus to make sure no one fucks around on base or on the bus or anything. So they just get to their places or whatever. So that's whatever, right? We get in. I did my duty, and I remember there was like a little bit of a break. So I walked over and I went to a suit place and I was like, hey, can you make me a suit real quick? He's like, all right, yeah, it'll be done in a couple days. I was like, listen, we might leave tomorrow. Can you get it done by the end of the day? He looked around. He was like, sure. So like for $250, I had a fully tailored suit that was going to be made for me. He got the measurements. I picked out the fabrics, did the whole fucking thing. And then I got back to the bus duty. And by the end of my duty, I went back to the suit place. It was done, right? Picked it up, got back. My TBI from that IED explosion, there was a couple IED explosions, but that main one, it put me on some pills to help me sleep because of, there were some issues. I get some migraines that would mess with me. So they gave me some pills that would put me to sleep. I had my suit, went back to the ship. I remember I took the pill, went to bed. Then I was getting shipped off because I was bleeding to death or something. I was attacked in my rack. No joke. I was attacked in my rack. I don't remember what happened to point A to point B, but I had my face smashed with a flashlight and chewed on by one of my seniors on ship in the middle of the night. And then they wanted to ship me the fuck off because I think I was getting chewed on, and then Romo, this is what I found out later, Romo fish hooked him, got him off my face, and hammered his face onto the rack. Doc Holloway picked me up. There was a bunch of blood going everywhere because my nasal cavity was smashed in. And they need to get me off ship. So there's some teeth marks underneath my beard right here, but he was just biting on me. And it was the middle of the night. What apparently was happening was there's a Tiger bar in the Phuket, right? And someone gave him drinks. And that's the last thing he remembers, was taking those drinks, libo. And this is the first night of Thailand, by the way. And then, I'm getting chewed on. Doc Holloway takes me to the infirmary. And then the infirmary can't do anything because my cartilage, the bones and everything is just smashed in. So it's just blood's filling up. So they're doing I don't know what they did to keep me from doing anything. But I remember, the only thing I kind of remember is the fact that I was on this little gurney thing just tied up, and they put me on the flight deck because they're waiting for a boat to take me to the hospital on Mainside, in Mainside, Phuket, Thailand. But they need to wait for the boat, and they just left me there. And a friend of mine sees me from comm school, Len Oldham. He sees me and he comes over. He realizes it's me. He couldn't really recognize because my face is gone. And he's like, Long. He finds out it's Long. He asks if he could do anything, and I remember I was choking. So he actually picks up the thing and moves it to the side and clears out my throat because so much blood was clotting inside that I was able to breathe again. Then he puts me down. And then I get shipped off. But I don't know why it happened. I don't know why I got attacked. And then I woke up in the hospital in Thailand, and I'm confused. Notably so. I was drugged. I was on my little pill thing. I'm tied up to the fucking bed, wrist, neck, and all that stuff, because apparently I was attacking people or something in the infirmary. So my body wasn't calming down. So when someone touched me, I'd grab them and start snatching up or whatever. And so when I got to the hospital, I wasn't calm and I was confused. Once I finally was coherent and everything, I remember waking up and I was in a lot of pain. My face hurt. My eyes were clotted over because there was blood that was dried up. And so my eyelashes were stuck together. And I'm just confused as to what just happened. And I'm like, fuck. Once the doctor came in, nurse comes in too, and they're talking to me, and they're both Thai. They kind of explained that they were given a call in the middle of the night that they needed to do something, and they looked at me, and then my what is it? The septum's completely deviated. I can't really breathe through it, and I'm gonna need surgery in order to fix my fucking nasal cavity so I can even use my nose. And what the fuck am I gonna say? I don't say yes or no. It's like, obviously I need to do this. And then I just was completely confused because there was no one with me at all from the unit. I was just by myself. So what had happened was that same night or something, over in Syria. Remember when the American embassy was like getting raided by it was the same day in 2012. It was the same fucking day. Me getting hurt and the embassy having problems over there. So who gets called up for the fucking embassy? The 15th MEU. So while I'm in the hospital, everyone loaded the fuck up on the ship and took the fuck off. And I'm just in the hospital and no one was told. So that wasn't the Marine Corps fault. Not the Marine Corps' fault at all. My friend Maltese from Sangin, he ended up doing the same thing for the MEU where he's like responsible for telling people. He said there's a whole process that goes on when a Marine gets hurt for a MEU and all that they get told and all that. But like, I can't remember what happened. I ended up having to call home and I called my wife. And I remember I called her up. She was like, first thing I was like, hey, it's me. And she was like, hey, ugly, what's going on? I was like, I don't even know. I kind of tell her that I'm in the hospital right now and I don't really know what happened to point A and point B, but I don't see anyone here. And she was like, she's on the phone. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like my face is like I looked at myself in the mirror. It's like all chewed up. All the blood vessels in my eyes are busted. And I was like, I don't know what happened. And she's like, oh, like, hold on. Can you call me back on this number? I was like, yeah. She'll call me in like an hour. It's okay. So leave her, hang up, kind of chilling, watching Thai TV, which is wild, by the way. And then I call her back, and what she had done was called my dad. And she called my dad, and they didn't talk. They weren't really close or anything, but she told him kind of the situation, and I don't know what domino effect happened, but my family got really involved with trying to figure out what happened, and like they got the right numbers. That's all I know, because all of a sudden a staff sergeant came through, and then he was going to be my escort to get around to whatever was coming next. So that whole thing happened, and I don't know. Then I ended up on this really crazy trip. I started in Thailand and I had to get to Syria. So that's where everyone was. But I didn't have anything with me. So it was just like, I had to get civilian clothes. I couldn't tell anyone I was a Marine because Marines are not even supposed to be in certain places. I had to get from Phuket. We got to Phuket to Bangkok, which... Got to Phuket to Bangkok, which when we got to Bangkok, we realized Bangkok's a big city. I thought it was small. Getting from there, we kind of just like walked on the plane a little bit just to kind of get in there because like getting to Bangkok and finding the American embassy and then trying to explain to them like, hey, I'm the Marine that was left in Thailand or left in the hospital in Thailand. The guy was like, no, there's no Marines left in Thailand. It's like, I'm not fucking lying. I'm here. And then they had to do the whole process because I didn't have a passport. I didn't have any information on me. And I was just here. And he was like, did you eat today? I was like, no. He's like, all right, go get some food and then we'll figure out what to do after that. Finally, he brings me over. He takes my picture, which hilarious picture because you took a picture and I just have all the bloody marks here. Eyes are all busted. I have this I think it was a green shirt or something, green or red shirt that I borrowed from an Australian guy. So, and all of a sudden, he didn't know, like he said it would take a while for my passport to be made because you can't just make a passport overnight. It's going to take some time. So he gave me a phone and a card, like a debit card. He was like, save your receipts and I need you to stay close to the embassy because apparently the embassy didn't have anywhere for me to sleep. So I was like, well, where's the nearest hotel? We're right across the street is the Oriental Residence. I was like, is it a good hotel? He's like, it's like a 5-star hotel. So he's like, he was a Marine too. He was like, they fucked over one of my boys. Just save the receipt and take whatever they give you. So I went across the street and gosh, I remember looking. It was like all the white marble and just a really pretty place. And they gave me like a penthouse suite in the top of the fucking thing. And this is my room. I'm like overlooking Bangkok. I had this whole room in Thailand and I'm just waiting for them to tell me what the fucking plans are. Next couple days, I'm just kind of, me and the staff sergeant had to do a whole bunch of stuff at the embassy, but if I had to go out, I would go with him. We walked around a couple times and I remember we found a vato, like a Mexican vato, like just out in the middle of fucking Bangkok. Because we were walking the embassy streets and you see it. You see the socks all the way up to the fucking knees and shit, the Converse and all the tattoos, but he has a chef coat on. That's different. So he has the tattoos on his head and we're walking over like, American? He was like, American? Yeah. He's like, get the fuck in here. He had a line around the corner and we went in and we had a conversation with him. And he said, I guess he came to Thailand to like do something and then he just never wanted to go back to America because he didn't want to be about that life anymore. He's like, you know what Bangkok doesn't have? Mexican food. So he opened up a Mexican restaurant in Thailand. He was fucking killing it because he had no competition in the place. So he didn't even charge us for the food. We just got a bunch of Mexican food and kind of waited. But while we were there, I think it was only about a couple, maybe like was it a week? Probably like a week. And then we got called up, say, hey, we got your passport and you're going to start moving out. And after that, we started traveling. Ended up going to Kuwait, Bahrain, where I went to an Irish bar. First time I went to Dubai, never even heard of Dubai until I landed in Dubai. And I was like, this place is fucking crazy. Saw the mall that had like a snow ski thing inside of it. I was like, that's fucking wild. This is a crazy fucking place. So everyone had like a Lambo and a Ferrari. I'm like, this is not a place that I can live at. I don't belong here. And I'm all fucked up in the face. And I wasn't like staying on bases. I was meeting up with like specialty people in different areas. And they had like private homes and we would stay with them. And it was always funny because they'd be like, is that Long? Yeah, I could tell because of his face is all fucked up. So that's how they identified me because of all the teeth marks. And everyone had this story of me being the zombie boy or a zombie guy who was getting chewed up on ship and shit. So I'm like, oh, fuck. That's how they identified me. And so after we were doing all the traveling in the Middle East and all that, we had to go to Africa because what we were going to do, there was a couple of recon Marines that got injured on the deployment as well. And they got surgery over in Germany. One of them apparently like tore his scrotum or something. So he had to have scrotum surgery in fucking Germany. And we were meeting with him in Africa. So we go to like the border of Somalia and Djibouti in order to meet up with the guys. And then we are going to go drive up to fucking Djibouti, to the Air Force base over there. Well, I don't remember what happened specifically, but this woman officer drives up and she's like, are you Long? I was like, I am Long. She's like, I knew because of your face. And so she wanted to give me a ride specifically while everyone else got another van, but she wanted to give me a ride because she needed to talk to me. She was like, I don't know, an oath. She was Air Force, and I think she was in 03 or something like that. I don't know, but she wanted to talk to me specifically because her old roommate was my anesthesiologist on the ship or something like that. She wanted to see who was the guy that had so much morphine and was still able to function. I had no idea. So she told me the story. So she's telling me they brought me to the infirmary and I kept complaining that I was in pain. So they just kept giving me morphine, and it wasn't doing anything. And I was still snatching people on the wrist and the throat and all that. And she was looking and she was like, I thought you'd be a lot like bigger or something, but she's telling me the story and driving me to the base. And I was like, yeah, I don't remember shit. So I don't know what to tell you, but that's how I kind of figured out that I don't really have a response to opioids because I'm whole thing with that. So get to Djibouti, get inside the base, and then I kind of have like this sleeping hab to myself. Staff sergeant's doing his own shit. I'm by myself. I don't even know where the recon guys are. And I'm kind of just here. And it's now Thanksgiving time. It was like October. It was like 2 weeks before Halloween in Thailand. And now it's like almost Thanksgiving time in Djibouti, Africa. So I've been gone for like a long time from this Mew. And it's getting close to Thanksgiving. And this is like the first time I actually get to call up my wife and get to talk to her for a second. And that was kind of a pain in the ass because I'm like battling with the Air Force guys to go ahead and do that. But once I finally called, I got to see her, I got to see my kids, and one time, and then Thanksgiving comes around, I'm not even able to talk to them because it's the holidays. Like, no one's going to be able to. So I just didn't even attempt to it. In Djibouti, it's Thanksgiving. The Staff Sergeant's base, I'm like basically the only Marine here because the other guys, I don't know where they're at, right? So I go to the chow hall for Thanksgiving, and it's, all the Air Force guys are getting their stuff. The chow's pretty good. I'm getting lining it up. The only thing that's open is this very long table in the middle of the chow hall. And I sit down with my food by myself. Couldn't call my family. So, yeah, I'm just kind of in a mood. And I remember the guy, the base commander, he comes over. He's like, "Are you Corporal Long? Are you Lance Corporal Long?" I was like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, "I could tell because your face. I heard what happened to you. We have these French foreign leaders who are here from military leaders. They never celebrate Thanksgiving. Do you want to kind of have dinner with them and explain the history of Thanksgiving with them?" I'm like, "You want me to explain Thanksgiving to a bunch of French people?" He's like, "Yeah, fuck it, bring them over. I'm all by myself anyway." So I'm surrounded now by military leaders from France all around me, and we're eating Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving food. And I'm trying to explain, we're eating. I'm trying to do the best that I could talk about. Pilgrims come through, Indians are there. They froze, and then by springtime, you're like, "Oh, you guys don't know how to do this," and I'm talking the whole story. And one of the guys asked me, he's like, "Hey, do Americans eat like this all the time?" And I looked at him, I want to say no, but you've seen Americans before. We're kind of husky. We eat like this probably too much. And I'm looking at the table. We're just kind of joking around. I see the lowest ranking one is a woman, and she's staring at her pie, right? It's a slice of pumpkin pie in front of her. And she's looking at it like it's confusing to her. She doesn't know what it is. And I ask her, I was like, "What's up?" And she's like, what is this? And I'm like, "It's pumpkin pie." And it's probably the best thing on the table. And so she takes her fork, takes the smallest part, puts it on her tongue, and then she gives this disgusted face, like she cannot stand what the fuck she just had in her mouth. And I fucking knife hand her, and I was like, "That's fucking un-American." And the table starts busting out into laughter because they thought that was hilarious how I just lost bearing and cussed out an officer. Now they're all looking at each other like, "You're fucking an American. You're fucking." They're just yelling at each other, and everyone's just yelling like it's fucking un-American. They're getting drunk. They have alcohol. They're getting drunk, and I'm looking around. I pan the room, and everyone's just mean mugging the fuck out of me because I'm loud as fuck. And the whole room is loud as fuck at this table, and just the Air Force guys are just like, "Dude, shut the fuck up." I'm like, "Well, you guys could have ate with me. It didn't have to be this way." That was my Thanksgiving thing. And a couple weeks, I did Black Friday with some guys, try to buy one of the Djiboutians a TV. Complicated. But then I found out me and the recon guys were going to go on a civilian ship, getting back to my guys close to Syria because the ship was just outside. So we took a civilian ship heading on over. Then we took a helicopter out, rappelled in, met up with my guys. I remember one of the corporals was there. I can't remember his name at that time, but he kind of filled me in that it got really hard after I got left over there because it was just a logistical nightmare. It was fucked up. A Marine attacked another Marine in the fucking place. And then we went right back to Djibouti. So we were there for a while waiting, and then we ended up right back in Djibouti. I was like, "Why don't you guys just meet me here? The fuck did you go?" And then we did some training exercises with the French Foreign Legion.
What happened to the guy that beat you up?
Scotty. He was a sergeant. He was the guy who attacked me. He was Sergeant Scott. I hate to say his name. But he was a friend of mine. Him and me did swim call together, and we were good. We worked really well together. But I ran into him in Kuwait, and this was actually his third assault strike because he's been into a lot of fights before. He practiced MMA, but he was struggling heavily with PTSD. And so when he freaked out on ship, he was going to military prison. I remember I ran into him in Kuwait on my way to Africa beforehand because I was hitting Kuwait, Djibouti, all that, or Dubai and all that. And I was talking to him, and I saw him, and he was like, "I can't talk to you right now." I was like, "No one's looking." And I was like, "I don't really care what happened because you have no idea. I'm having a really interesting trip right now across the world. And I wouldn't have been able to do it if you didn't attack me. It fucking sucks that it happened because what the fuck?" It's I told him I forgive you. I have no problem with what happened. Like, you and me are still good, and I hope the best happens for you. But it's not like I could defend his character. I'm going to deployment. He's going to jail. But that was the last time I saw him. The last thing he remembers was drinking a drink that someone bought for him that he didn't know. Just a drink showed up, and he woke up in the brig with blood in his mouth. That's the last thing he remembers. Like, he doesn't know what happened from point A to point B. Just like I don't remember, because I went to bed and then I woke up in a hospital, you know, with like hazy memory of me flipped over because I'm suffocating. So neither him or me know why it happened. But from what we hear, just, yeah, a lot of different stories. But he was all right. But going back, we went to Africa. We did some training with the French Foreign Legion, I think. Yeah, because none of them were French. They were like every other country besides French, but they all spoke French. And remember, we were sleeping on the beach and doing like some Casevac stuff, picking up the down planes and shit. It was a pretty wild story. We did the training, like some down pilots and shit. We're on the beach. Remember those recon Marines that I talked about? Mm. We're on the beach, and I remember this African guy is saying, like, there are fins out, there's a shark in the water. And we see the fins, and the recon Marines jump in the fucking water to go after those fins. And I'm not letting them beat me to the fins. For some reason, this makes sense to me. So I jump in, we start swimming, we catch up to the fins. It turns out to be a whole family of whale sharks. And what do you think Marines do when they see whale sharks out in the wild? We obviously try to ride them. So grab onto that dorsal fin and hop up. You know what whale sharks do when you hop up on top of them? They skip you like a fucking stone. So we get launched off by these fucking sharks. And yeah, that was kind of fun. But dealing with these guys, the French after that, they're a little crazy. They had like, we were doing like some rappelling, but it was like just a metal cable, and we had to like jump and actually put this metal bar thing, like it would look like a tricep bar on this thing, and just do this running thing while coming down. But it was like totally not safe. We're just fucking over and over doing it. You're next. Like, they have no self-preservation, and I fucking love that about them. So it was kind of cool. But when I was deployed, I was like, I don't think I could do this anymore. And then I got back. We did the leave. The decision to kind of get out was already in my head, and I was like, I don't really know what to do. I didn't do enough MCIs or little test shit to kind of pick up rank, and so it wasn't really something I wanted to do. Some of my guys were getting out too, and I really thought about it. I was like, do I really want to stay in if the guys I knew weren't going to stay in either? So it just felt like something that I wanted to try civilian life, and looked around. I didn't want to go back to Northern California because I had nothing but bad history there, and I didn't want my kids to be raised about hearing any stories about what their dad was. I'll tell them. I won't let someone else tell them, because that's a whole different thing. And I didn't want to live in Southern California where it's expensive and the culture was really different. So I looked at houses in Las Vegas for some fucking reason, realized how cheap it was, and was like, I've never been to Vegas before. Applied for a job, and they said come in for an interview, and I left for Vegas. Did the job interview for an armored car company and got the job and moved my family out there. And that was it. Like, that simple. It was a whole new chapter for me to start over. Transitioning into civilian life after the Marine Corps. First off, I was very irritated all the time. I was very angry. And I didn't realize I was angry. I just thought I was whatever, right? Just like, the Marine Corps does really good giving you purpose and giving you a direction and having some kind of motivation every day, because you're kind of told what to do all the time. When you go to the civilian world, you have to make that choice for yourself. And I went right into a job that was moving money around Las Vegas. Now, at first, they put me on the normal routes, which you're supposed to do, which is like banks and small stores and restaurants around like suburban areas and everything else, right? It's like little shit. But I was really efficient at getting the job done because I was working with civilian people who, I hate to say it, they're kind of lackadaisical. And I had no I had no interest in talking to people. I had no interest in building relationships with people around. I wanted to get the job done as quickly as possible. So I was bringing routes back almost 2 to 3 hours earlier than they normally would, which, every employer likes, especially when you're working hourly, because that means they don't have to pay me as much and I'm getting the job done super fast. Something I wasn't translating in my head at that point in time. But I was getting a reputation in Vegas as kind of a pain in the ass to work with. So, but I didn't realize that. I ended up being second in charge of the Las Vegas Strip for the company I was working for. So I would start work on Friday and I would end work on Monday. So that means every day, that was my work week, Friday for Monday. So I was moving all the money that was going to the casinos Friday morning. So they would be prepared for the rush that people would come in, and there'd be some minor pickups on Saturday and Sunday. But then Monday, all the money that the casinos made, I would be picking up. So millions and millions of dollars all the time. Now that was fine. I was bringing that route in a few hours earlier as well on the weekends. The issue I was having was I was a fucking asshole. I was a complete fucking asshole. I was not fun to work with. I was not nice at all. I had no problem telling managers when I showed up, and if they weren't ready, I was like, you got 2 minutes. If you don't got your fucking money ready, I'm out. And that's not my fucking problem. I had no problem telling people that, which developed me a pretty harsh relationship with some of the casino vaults and some of the major stores on the Strip. And I sort of kicked somebody pretty hard in this one store. So during the fashion show mall, I won't say what store it is, but they sell very expensive jeans. And on the Strip fashion show mall, my partner was pushing the cart that had all the coins on it, and I'm walking through the mall. And this is the kind of mindset that I had at the time. I'm going through, and you have to walk in the hallway, bust a right, and then bust a left to get into the office. When I did that, my partner's behind me. I have $50,000 in a little tote bag that's with me. And I busted a left, and this dude just pops out of nowhere and yells, "Boo," like boo in my face. So I handled it. And I remember my partner comes in, "What's going on?" I was like, "No, we're done." It's like, it's fine. He just came out. And I remember that he was doing that to the manager. He was like a new hire, and he was doing this to the manager the whole time. And I had to have disciplinary action because I reacted the way I thought I should react when someone just pops up out of nowhere. And I didn't know I was struggling with PTSD at the time. May have put hands on him. I may or may not have put hands on him. The manager thanked me for it, though, because he was being kind of annoying for the last week or something. And she was like, "Thank you so much for handling that." So you're welcome. It's the only thank you I ever got on Las Vegas. But over a period of time, because I was having issues with being in civilian life, I ended up losing that job. And then I couldn't find work. I tried finding work in security, and I tried applying for things. But what people don't understand about Las Vegas, it's a cowboy town. So that means everyone talks to everyone in every industry. So if you're in security in Las Vegas, pretty much everyone in security knows everybody. If you're in culinary in Las Vegas, everyone knows everyone in culinary. And that's just everyone communicates and everyone talks. So when you're applying, people do check to see who you are. And I couldn't get a job in security because I was a high-risk employee. I was good at what I did, but because of the stuff I was dealing with internally, I was just not working. It was not working out. I would work long hours. I would work out really hard, and I was kind of ignoring my household as well. So my marriage was also struggling at the time because it just wasn't. I was not here, and I didn't realize I wasn't there. And so, since I couldn't go to work and I didn't know what to do, I decided to use my GI Bill and go to college because that was the only thing I could do, which in retrospect, I shouldn't have just jumped right into college. I should have got some help first, but I was still struggling with that. We started going to a church that had a 12-step program called Celebrate Recovery, and I started going through that in order to work through steps. Now, I never smoked. I never drank. I was just living in it in my head all the time. I didn't want to be like my mom, so I avoided all substances. But the problem with that is, like, I had no excuse for the way I was behaving. I was just I was just an asshole. I was just a violent, angry person. And I took it out on everybody. And so going through the 12-step program, I was working on that. But I had to get money somehow, so I went to college. And I remember I was on the phone with like one of those people, like I had the GI Bill, what should I do? He's like, well, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't fucking know. What is there to do in college? He's like, you're a Marine? I was like, yeah. He was like, do you like to eat? Yeah, I like to eat. He was like, you ever consider culinary school? I was like, why would I consider culinary school? He's like, it's the only test you can eat at the end of the day. I was like, that's a good fucking point. So I signed up I was like, sign me up. So I went to an art school to go to culinary school while I was going through recovery, getting my GI Bill to cook. And then this is where I started to learn how to balance some of the shit I was learning from the 12-step program with actual people. But I was going to an art college with a mindset that was way different from the people that were there. And that was a challenge. That was a huge challenge because I'm dealing with 18, 19-year-old art students because it wasn't just culinary there. We had fashion students, we had art, graphic design artists, we had everything in the art world was in this school. And a lot of these guys were really young and they really thought they understood how the world worked, even though most of them never went anywhere. And it was kind of, I was like almost the old man there. There was a few old people, older people with me. There was one guy, he was like, I think he was in, not Fallujah, something before Fallujah, the Gulf War or something like that. And he just retired from construction. And so he was the only other vet that I knew in the place. So we used to just joke around, some dark ass jokes, but like we worked together on a lot of stuff. But he was the only one that really understood that was going on with me mentally. And trying to balance that. And I was, at this time, I was starting to have some severe migraines from my TBIs that I got during my time in, that they were starting to increase to the point where I was losing a lot of consciousness sometimes when I get headaches. And I just didn't want to deal with it. And I was working on getting with the VA for disability, and it just wasn't, it was a process. And yeah, it was a long time. I was in culinary school dealing with my mental health and trying to figure out what to do. And while I was going through that, I was trying to volunteer at the church all the time to try to give back. But it was hard dealing with the civilian world and the transition of that, and the fact that I didn't want to deal with anybody anymore. I was just very aggressive, angry, quiet, which is surprising nowadays because I talk all the time. But it was just not it. And when I found out my wife was pregnant again, I didn't know what to do, and I just wanted to. I had to leave school, and so I can go back to work. I could have stayed in, I guess, but I did all the cooking classes, and I was not interested in working in a restaurant anymore. I was like, I learned how to cook, and I didn't want to do numbers for plates and all that shit, and just work really hard in a restaurant at minimum wage for years until I could get a decent position to barely get by. So I realized it wasn't going to be the best job for me if I was going to be able to raise my family. So I just went back into security. From there, I still had a black mark on my name in Las Vegas. And so I went to the American Legion, and they met me up with somebody who he was going to do a favor. He was going to hire me as a favor for them, even though I was a high risk considered. Even though it's been a couple of years since I've been in security, I went there and I started doing that, and I became a security lead for these people. Really quick for the overnights, I was driving, checking everyone, but I hated the job because I was getting $10 an hour just to be a fucking supervisor, right? $10 an hour for 12-hour shifts, driving around Las Vegas in the middle of the night. I didn't really know what to do. There was another guy there, Herb Pasqua. He was an Army vet who was trying to start a special response team. He wanted me to work with him. And so for some of the major conventions, so he made me one of the leads for him in SRT. And it was his company that he had for special security. And he was like, I want you to go around and I want you to talk to people. Why he wants me to talk to people, I don't know. I was still the guy who had no problem telling people they can go fuck themselves, but he thought it would be a good idea for me to network for him. But I meet the go to ASP, the fucking batons and shit. And I'm just walking around like, hey, I'm part of this new little company. We're doing like the security here. I want to see if there's anything that we might be able to do for partnership for with ASP for this. He turned out to be the vice president of ASP. He was like, you willing to do some cool shit? I was like, I guess. Well, like, what do you have in mind? He's like, next week we're going to be going to one of the police departments. We're going to have the police departments in LA. So LAPD is going to train with us. They're going to get their certifications to be instructors for ASP. If you and your guys show up, you guys don't have to pay for it. You just got to take the course with the LAPD, and then you guys will be certified as instructors for it. So I told Herb the next week after we were done, we all loaded up a van, went over there, and got our ass beat by a bunch of cops. I beat the shit out of a bunch of cops. And it turned out 2 people there were not cops. They were counterterrorism instructors here in Las Vegas, or back in Las Vegas. And they're like, I really like the fact that you didn't care you were beating the shit out of cops and you could take a hit. I was like, yeah. What do you do? I was like, I'm just a regular security guard. He's like, when you get back, I want you to call me. Got back to Vegas, called up the guy, and we met up. And he was like, do you have GI Bill still? I only used 1 year in culinary school. I was like, yeah, I still got GI Bill. He's like, if you use your GI Bill, I'll put you through the course. You'll take your advanced bodyguard course, your Krav Maga course, which is Krav Haganah, was a whole different thing, and then your counterterrorism instructor course, and you'll be certified as a counterterrorism instructor. So I was like, how long would that take? He's like, it's going to take a few months, but you'll get your GI Bill, you'll get all that shit done, and then it's like, you'll be able to go on a different trajectory for your life. You can go into contracting or anything you want. I thought about it. I was like, I was in a very low place mentally because I felt like I was wasting my life in security. So I was like, fuck it. Why not? So I went there, I took all their courses, and then when I finished every course, I got the advanced bodyguard course, got certified in like route planning, defensive driving, shooting, and all the shit that comes up with that. Then I did the martial arts course and got certified in all the martial arts up to an instructor. And then I went into the counterterrorism instructor, learned how to teach everything that I just learned and to get certified to certify other people into it. Once I was at the last week, I found out half the instructors are fucking leaving on a fucking contract and they had no one to teach the classes. And I asked the only one who was there, I was like, how big is the next class? He was like, about 40 people. It was like, do you need help? It's like, yeah, I need help. It's 40 fucking people. I was like, well, I'm certified as an instructor. Do you want me to instruct with you? He's like, let's do it. And then I went ahead and I helped him teach that first class. And then from 2017 until 2020, I was a counterterrorism instructor at Las Vegas, teaching everyone how to do shit. During that time, I found purpose again, if that makes sense. I learned that I really love instructing people and showing them how to get that fire back in their life, because I lost it all, and that school gave me a purpose to instruct and teach. And during that time, we had a lot of clients that came in that were victims of human trafficking and domestic violence, and I was showing them how to protect themselves, how to break out of handcuffs and zip ties, and how to fight bigger people. And it was good. It gave me something to look forward to. I was paid shit. Sometimes I didn't get paid at all because it was a small school, but I would do it because it gave me purpose of living, and seeing veterans like myself who felt like they had nothing anymore feel like they could do something, that they were something again, which they are, but they can't see it because they feel like they turned off. Like you wonder in your own life if you matter anymore because you're not doing what you used to do. You wonder if you're a has-been, or wonder if your life even matters because you're not doing what you used to do. And it was great to see the fire light up in their eyes again, if that makes sense. So I did that for a while. And one of the examples of some of the stuff that we used to do in the counterterrorism school was interrogation. The first day is interrogation, right? So it's SEER school right in the beginning. Reason for that is you want everyone who comes in, some of them they're different branches, some of them are civilians that do like security and all that shit, right? They're different people from different worlds. You put people through a heavy amount of stress, all of a sudden they are very cohesive for the rest of the time. It's the same thing in boot camp, right? In boot camp, it's very stressful. You have the same enemy. You're freaking drill instructor. Everyone becomes a cohesive unit because they don't want to get fucked over because someone else does it. So during the school, first day's interrogation, we're getting everyone through, and you have to waterboard. We have them tied up. We have them in hot boxes. We have them like holding up, and we're interrogating. There's tasers. There's waterboarding going on with like, they have these masks, and sometimes you pour the water on them. And then we actually have a waterboarding room where that's where the interrogation would go. One of these students would have a code on them that we wrote down and somehow got passed off. I remember one time we're in there and we are interrogating these guys, and this one guy's just really getting it. Like, he doesn't give a fuck that he's getting waterboarded at all, pouring water after water. He's barely coughing. And I remember I looked up and I saw there was a bottle of Mountain Dew right there. And I'm like, I wonder if this would do a different thing. Took the water, took it, and I was like, I wonder if this will work. Poured in. Carbonation up the nose makes a whole different experience for waterboarding, because he went from very clean Nestle water to Baja Blast. Oh, the fucking nose. Oh, he was he didn't have the code. It wasn't him, but he finally broke. Once we got done with him, we moved him off. But that was kind of the stuff we go, like, because we talked about it. You would have to understand, like, when you are in that interrogation situation, you have to be in a mental state of something else, because it's going to be uncomfortable. And in a real life situation, they're not going to use water most of the time. They'll use whatever's available if they're like for overseas. It could be motor oil, it could be piss. You don't know. So you have to be ready for anything. And you're just getting this pure water down the way. He was okay. I had to do that multiple times, every other month, to get waterboarded because you had to respect the craft if you were going to do it to other people. That's what we were told anyway. So that was a fun time. I actually enjoyed that school quite a bit because I had a lot of freedom as an instructor, but at the same time, there was an unpredictability about it that actually made me feel pretty at home. So it was a good place. I met my mentor there, Jason Brooks. He was able to help me out a lot just in life in general to navigate, because even though I was like becoming the instructor and trying to be the family man and do all this stuff as an instructor who was barely paid anything, he was always there to let me know, like, you just keep going and doing the grind because you're doing what you're passionate about. He was one of the guys that told me, like, do what you're passionate about, because if you're not doing that, then you're really gonna have a light in your life to keep going. Because I remember when I was doing that security job, there was one time I was driving in the middle of the night and I was looking and we're going over this overpass. I was like, I can just drive right off the freeway right now and I don't have to deal with this anymore. And that was like the call of the void that was there. And I was in that mental state for a long time, which is why when I got the opportunity to take the courses, I was happy to do it, because I hate the fact how many times I was just ready to die all the time. Afghanistan was that way. And then after Afghanistan, I'd realizing how difficult the civilian world was. It was easy to get to that point. Yeah. Once everything closed down and I didn't know, I was really happy going to that school, even though there was not much there and I was doing all the side jobs, but I had purpose, and purpose was giving me a lot to do. So when the world shut down and then that school closed down, I had nothing. I had a student reach out to me. We started a company and it was mostly security, focusing on bodyguard work, but then it ended up being something else where I was using all the skills that I picked up over the years to travel the country, move money around for this crypto, like covertly. And I was doing something that I had control over. So I got a taste for freedom with the ability to use everything I learned. And I kept trying to pivot and find ways to have purpose again all the time. And my issue was I just kind of trusted people a little bit too much, to the point where our company fell apart because we jumped into everything together without really thinking about the cohesion of everybody, which is something I think a lot of entrepreneurs do. And I just was needing something that made me feel like I had purpose. And so I kind of ignored a lot of the red flags that were going to be there, and it ended up the company falling apart. And I lost my company. My son left for the army, and my dog died the same day my son left for the army. And then this was like another time where my wife wanted a divorce. she was kind of done with all the different changes throughout the years of what I was going. And she said she wanted a divorce again. And I was going through therapy at the time. And he said if she asked for a divorce again, I have to just say yes. And yeah. And that was a couple years ago. And I remember I had nothing going on for me. And I was sitting in a parking lot over on the right by the strip, and I was just looking at the strip, and I really didn't know what I was gonna do. I was sitting there with a gun that I was borrowing, and just looking at the strip and just wondering whether I should even keep going, because I really didn't have anything going for me anymore. I didn't have purpose. I didn't have a job. I didn't have, my wife wanted to leave, and everything was just kind of falling apart. And I get a call from one of my guys from staying in Afghanistan. It was Sergeant Castillo. I don't know why. He just said he wanted to call. And that's when I realized, like, yeah, this call kind of kept me going, because I didn't even tell him what was going on. He just wanted to talk, and that little conversation alone let me know that I kind of still mattered to some people. Yeah, he was talking about his job at UPS and just random shit like that, and we're just kind of like shooting the shit. Like, we haven't talked in years, just out of nowhere. And I think the best thing about that call was the fact that, yeah, even though it's been years, we're still family. Like, that was one of the things that I never really lost, is there was a bond that we made in staying in Afghanistan, like all of us, to the point where, because since it was such a uniquely bloody deployment, only other people who've been to Sangin really did understand other Sangin Marines. And so the fact that even though years gone by, I don't think I went to a reunion yet. I haven't even gone to a reunion at all yet, because I decided I was going to go and check it out. And because I was like, I feel like I could do something like that. So I went to the reunion, actually hung out with all my guys, and I realized how many of us actually have committed suicide since then. It was like almost the same number that we lost in Afghanistan. And I realized, like, it's a big deal. And I just decided, like, no matter what, if my guys are needing something, I started calling my guys more often. If anything happens with them, I'm going to be there. You have a wedding, I'm going to show up. A baby shower, I'll fucking show up. I don't care if you have a new job, I'm going to show up. I just want you to know that I'm still thinking about you. And I still call my guys as much as I can today, because I realize, like, that phone call, I don't know when I'm calling. What if one of my guys is sitting in a parking lot with a fucking pistol in his hand, wondering who's gonna fucking call him? And I remember my boy Von Grassamy. He told me once, when I went to go visit him over in Nashville, he was like, when you were leaving, it was in your face, and I saw it. I was like, I think Long's gonna kill somebody. He's like, he's like, you had this look in your face. It was like you were dead, and you were angry, and you had all that stuff. And I didn't know how to tell it to you, because I didn't want you to lash out, but at the same time, I didn't want you to tell me what you saw in my face. And so you just didn't say anything. And it makes me wonder how many times we just didn't say anything. We just accepted that this is what we are, and we just moved on, or how we could see anything, because I didn't see anything in anyone. I don't know if I even cared, because I was too fucked up in my own shit to pay attention to that. So what am I doing now? That's such a complicated answer. With all the shit that kind of fell about with all that shit that we just talked about, I ended up becoming a stuntman on a reality show. Then I became a reality show person. I don't even know how that happened exactly. It just, I got into some fights and it was fun for me. And then I came back, and with all the fucking heavy shit that was going on, I was looking for laughs. So I started going to stand-up comedy. Turned out my friends were there. And I don't know what came over me. I'm like, I'm going to start a stand-up comedy writing group. And a friend of mine was like, I always wanted to do that. I was going to call it Smoking and Joking, where I can get vets to talk about their fucking comedy. I'll take their stories and turn it to comedy. I was like, that sounds like a good idea. So at the end of that day, I started that shit. And I told him, hey, we're going to do the first class next week. He's like, you actually got to start? I was like, fuck yeah, I did. I posted it on LinkedIn and on Instagram. And then my fucking podcast partner I'm on with now with Vegas Veteran Voices, he sees it. He was like, hey, I see you have a stand-up comedy group. I would love to get involved with that. I was like, yeah, well, fucking show up. This is going to be the day. And we show up at Eddie's house. We start doing the writing. And then Brenton, my podcast partner, was like, hey, you ever do a podcast before? I was like, no, which wasn't true. I did one podcast before and I got trapped in it. I didn't realize what was going to happen with that one. I was like, no, I've never done one. We're just talking about life. So ended up doing a podcast with Brenton. Kind of talking about a few of the stories we talked about on here. And then I think a week after that, Brenton lets me know, hey, I'm making you co-host of the show. He didn't even ask. He just told me I was going to be co-host of the show. And he was like, the reason for it is this podcast's purpose is to find veterans that are doing shit, right? Finding anything about purpose, passion, different kind of therapies are going out there. We're highlighting people to do shit because I have a plan for the nonprofit. And I was like, it's going to be a nonprofit? He's like, yeah, it's going to be a nonprofit. And so I said, I guess let's fucking do it. So we started doing the podcast together. I just have a habit of saying, fuck yeah, let's go. Because I'm either like, it's either fuck yeah or not at all. That's for me. I'm all in. No matter what the side quest is, I'm in, right? And so he puts me on. We start interviewing people. And I had this idea that I wanted to do because of all the suicides and all the problems that we were having with my Sangin Marines. I wanted to go to Philadelphia because I heard that Ton Tavern was being rebuilt in Philadelphia. And I wanted to do a trip across the country because I really had nothing going on. My marriage is falling apart. I didn't really have anything else. And I was like, I just want to go across, go visit each one of my guys that I know where they're at on the way to Philadelphia, and then just go celebrate at Ton Tavern. And it was like one of the first dreams I ever had. I never really had a dream. So it was like, that's the first thing I wanted to do. And then a few of the guys, Brenton and this guy Daniel, they're like, you know what? Why don't we make it a documentary? Because why not? So we already did the podcast in people's places because we have the whole podcast. I mean, we have the podcast studio right now in the fucking parking lot. So we went ahead and packed up our shit. And then, man, we had no idea what we were doing. We had no fucking money. We had no funds or anything like that. So trying to pitch it to people and trying to get an idea to do it, that's what we wanted to do. And then it came down to the wire. And I wanted to do it. And I felt like I was going to be a failure if I couldn't do it. And a couple of people came through, Spec Ops Water and TMS. Like TMS was like the little electroshock therapy people. They donated all the money to get us just to do the trip there and back. And it was the first time that I decided I made something up in my head and it came to fruition by us going. And we took our podcast nationally by traveling and just talking to people about the things that they go through. Not just my guys, but just people around the country, veterans who are doing awesome shit. And we get to highlight them and talk about their journey, just exactly how we're doing here. Talk about the types of things that get them up in the morning and the passions that they're going for. And then I realized I love being a host and highlighting the fuck out of people and being able to just talk about what they do. Because for me, I'm not that interesting. I don't find me interesting. Other people do. But I love being able to put people up on a platform and show them that they're fucking awesome. And so it's like what I get to do now, because while we were on the trip, we got approved for our 501c3 as a nonprofit. We got to take it and we get to show nonprofits how to just be human beings and talk about the things that they do. We get to find veterans and get them to talk about the struggles that it is of the transition and the things that get them up in the morning so they find out what keeps them alive, because we get people committing suicide every day because they lost that purpose. And so now I get to highlight people to remember that they're loved and that they have an opportunity to show people how to live after getting the uniform off. And so it's an awesome trip. I get paid shit right now to do it, but I do it because it makes me wake up in the morning. And I just want everyone else to do that. Vegas Veteran Voices is my nonprofit. Is the nonprofit me and Brenton started. Stories Over Stigma is the project overall. And it helps nonprofits be able to talk that aren't like robotic. A lot of people get on and they're like, hey, this is my nonprofit. We do but they don't talk about their personal journey and their personal story. And just like we were talking about this, if you're not talking about that personal point to it, people just turn off, which means people who are doing incredible things are completely missing out because they lost the human element. So we're getting people to put their human element back into it, especially from the entertaining portion of what they do, because there's always something amazing that you're doing. Talk about it. So the only thing I could say is, stop trying to fucking predict what's going to happen, because no matter what you do, it's going to go to shit anyway. The best thing you can do is pivot and figure it out. Get up, find out what makes you wake up in the morning, and just keep on trucking. Honestly, do it for the plot. There's going to be somebody who's like watching your shit anyway, and they're going to be pissed off. Do it in spite. Doesn't matter, as long as you're doing something. It's going to be a fun trip. Breton didn't have white hair until he met me. That's totally my fault. I have almost killed this man. So, but just from the stress. But you know what? It's worth it as long as we affect this world the best way possible. So every one of these guys is valuable. Call your homies, because you don't know when they're sitting in that parking lot with that gun in their hand. And one suicide a day is too much. And we have too much right now.
It's been a pleasure sitting with you, brother.
I don't know. Thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Thanks.
All right.